Welcome to See You Next Tuesday. I'm Jade Chung. I have my second ever guest returning to this podcast. My first was obviously my husband, and he's been on 3 times. But my next guest returning, everyone has been waiting, and some people have messaged me and said how wild this past episode was and how much they enjoyed it. Now, after interviewing this person, not interviewing, but like talking to this person, I knew right away that I had to have him back. So let's not wait any longer. Let's welcome back Rico Montana. Rico, thank you so much for coming back and doing my podcast again.
Thank you for having me. That introduction kind of just put pressure on me. It was like people actually listen to what I had to say, you know?
Well, after we stopped recording, we started talking about more of your stories. And then you're like, oh, like I have a ton more. I'm like, well, you need to come back. You need to come back and tell them. And so
but I felt the same way.
You felt the same way? Like you wanted?
Yeah, like I felt like it could have went like 7 or 8 hours. Like I was wow,
easily
13 years of my life is just, coming out of me. And it was just like a keep rolling. And I was just like, oh, I forgot to mention this. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a long time.
Very long time. And with people messaging me about it. And I said, well, keep a lookout. He's going to come back because he's got a ton more stories. And they're like, oh my God, can't wait. So I would love to start off and see how you've been doing. Now, we're both in Canada, and obviously Canada is absolutely slow in trying to get things back to normal. How has COVID affected you during this entire, how many months now?
It's going to be like 17 months, 18 months. March. Yeah. I've had my days. Majority of it, I think I was okay. I was just keeping busy and, figuring out like, okay, this is what's going on. So how am I gonna, achieve more from this? Or like, what can I do? But I had my days. Like, it was my birthday at the beginning of the month of June.
Yeah.
And like, that was kind of like shit. Cause it was like, spend the day, like family and stuff like that. And then it was just like, I just wanted to go to the movies, and then it's closed. And then it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like the way the term I kind of use is life. Like I actually like miss life around me. Like, I'll give you an example. Like say you're going, I don't know, one of my favorite stores to go to is Kitchen Stuff Plus. So and where the Kitchen Stuff Plus is near me is like there's a Winners and there's a Home Depot and it's a busy plaza. So, like what I consider life is like, say you're pulling up and you're going to one store, but there's like, 4 people like having a coffee and talking. And then there's another like 2 people like sitting down on the bench having, ice cream, talking. And it's like, to me, that's life. And it's just like, the air's dead because like none of that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's depressing. Like, I miss life around me.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to remind everyone that you are also Josh's coach. And so a whole ton about health. Speaking of COVID, one of my concerns was vitamins. And when COVID became like a really, really big issue, Josh turned to you about it, and you gave him some recommendations, right? Yeah. What did you tell him to take to help COVID?
Yes. So one of my mentors, who's a doctor in Ohio, so I was talking to him about COVID like at the very beginning, and then he basically was explaining to me like look into like A, B, and C, and then like you should be able to figure out like what impacts different systems because what COVID impacts. So it's pretty much like mainstream like vitamin D, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's vitamin D. Then I recommended vitamin A to him because that's amazing for like respiratory. Like even sometimes if I'm traveling quite a bit and I'm on airplanes, I'll like super dose vitamin A just to kind of like clean anything like in my respiratory tract that I've gotten from being on planes or just being around big groups of people.
Right.
Then I suggested to him selenium, which is antiviral. So it's just good for you. So like if you're someone who doesn't eat a lot of nuts, you're probably like low on selenium, which selenium is good for a bunch of things, but it's antiviral, so you're not really losing anything by taking it. And then zinc, and then quercetin. Quercetin, the simplest way I could put it is like when you take zinc, you need it to latch on to something to actually become like bioavailable in your system. So quercetin is like kind of like something that'll help shuttle it. So it's not something you have to take like all your life, but it's like, if you're afraid that you've been exposed or if you have it, it's like those are things that they're not going to hurt you. They might not save you, but they're not going to hurt you.
Right. Now, is this all pill form? Like you have to find it all individually, bottled? You're
yeah,
taking
like that's the
pills.
Unfortunate. Like, yeah, but they're not all pills. Like they're capsules too. So, like I have clients and stuff who don't really like taking things, but like some of them kind of need it. So what I suggest to them is like say for instance, like you have like a meal that you blend, like say a protein shake with some oats and berries or whatever. Like you could just pop the capsule open and put it in there.
Oh,
like the powder. Like it doesn't necessarily mean you have to swallow the capsule. You can just open up the capsule, even put it on a spoon, mix it in a glass of water, and drink it. Unless you're taking things like cayenne pepper, like nothing really tastes that bad.
Because I myself hate taking anything in pill form. So it's hard for me to
you're not alone though. Like it's actually common. It's just the whole thing is just like sitting back and just being like, no, I won't take it, but think outside the box a little bit. Like the thing I don't know, I'm not going to argue with people about this, but I just think vitamin D that comes in liquid form is shit. I think the majority of the stuff that comes in liquid is shit. So anything that's fat soluble, like a vitamin D or a vitamin A, usually, fortunately, they make them like super tiny, like, I don't know, like a quarter of the size of a blueberry. So, I mean, they're not like hard to swallow. And if it bothers you, the fat soluble ones, just get a pin and just suck the juice right out of it. Like, at least like what you're getting, right?
Yeah. So how come the liquid form it's just not as powerful?
No, it's just hard to get steady dosages. So like, I'll give an example. Say you have a bottle and on the bottle it says, I'm just going to make it simple. It says there's 100 milligrams and then there's 10 servings, right?
Right.
So you'd assume, 10 servings divided by 100 is 10. So each serving will be 10 milligrams. But how do you know if they're putting vitamin into liquid? Like maybe one serving will be all vitamin and the other 9 servings will be all just the liquid. You know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of like research papers that I've read that just kind of show that. And I'll be honest, I didn't pay like that much attention to it because I don't see it being a big deal. But, there's just a lot of research showing that, encapsulated vitamin D, for instance, is just more steady and is more effective and works better and is more absorbable than the liquid. But I'm sure there'll be people to argue to counter that. So that's just my personal opinion. So if you were to say to me, like, if it was absolutely you had to take it, yeah, it's better than not taking anything. It's just, I would probably just give you higher dose than you probably need just in case.
Right.
Or make you go get tested to see if it's working.
Do you recommend multivitamins?
Not really. I mean, like if you have obviously like there's different factors when you're working with people and economics are one of them. So, I mean, if you get priced out of being able to make your own multivitamin, then yeah, okay, take one. But I think it's better just to make your own because if you walk into a vitamin store, everything on the shelf is good for you, but is it really good for you? You know what I mean? Like it's individual, right? So
right.
you might not need it. Like women tend to need more iron than men. So if you go buy just a standard multivitamin that doesn't contain iron or not enough of it, then you have to add to it. And then another thing too is the vitamin D that comes in multivitamins is so minimal.
Oh.
Like I can just give you a brief thing without getting too boring about vitamin D. But when I moved back here from Mexico, and I go to private healthcare, but I also had a no-hip doctor. But so my private healthcare doctor, he checks my vitamin D 4 times a year. So when I was telling him I was suffering from certain symptoms, he's like, right away, test your vitamin D. Test my vitamin D, and it's non-existent. And I'm like, yeah, but I take like 3,000 IUs a day, and it was still non-existent. So for me to be in the normal range the last like 7-8 years, in the winter months, I have to take about 15 to 20,000 IUs a day, just to be normal, not to be optimal. And then usually like around like mid-May, June, like when I do the next set of like another set of blood work I do, I could usually bring it down. So like I'll give you an example. I just did blood work a couple days after my birthday, so like about 3-4 weeks ago, and I still have to take 10,000 IUs a day just to be normal. And it's summer, and I'm outside all the time and have a pool.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So when people like give out these like standard, and I'm not going to say their names, but people have messaged me saying, "Oh, like I watched this YouTube video, and this person said I should take this," and it's just like, yeah, well, there's a person doesn't even know your name. How the fuck are they telling you how much you're supposed to take? So, I suggest to everyone, our government's a piece of shit in Canada, but pay the $39 and go get your vitamin D tested at least twice a year. Like, so $80 a year. I think you can even write it off on taxes if you don't have insurance. But I think it's super important. Get it done in like November, and then getting it done again in like May, June. Yeah.
I can hear Josh right now. Like when he listens to this, he's going to be screaming, saying, "I've been telling you to take vitamin D and you won't listen." And here I am just like kind of absorbing everything. And
well, my wife doesn't listen to me. Like her working through all this COVID stuff. Like, I was like, you should take it, get it. No, it's fine. I don't need pills. I don't need anything. Cause like, I don't know, maybe you have the same mentality. She just thinks that like taking a pill is like taking drugs, and then it's like a bad thing, like taking vitamin D is like taking cholesterol medication, like, yeah.
Speaking of your wife is a nurse, right?
Yeah.
And where does
she's a nurse. At a retirement home.
How has the pandemic been for her? What's her experience, especially in a retirement home?
Yeah, working like crazy. Like in a way, I kind of think it was good, because I think like she's kind of like me, where you just don't like to sit at home, like sit still. You know what I mean? Like, and especially when you're forced, like can't even like go to the mall for a walk. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think it would have been hard on her. I think they had like, not I think they had 102 people with COVID, like employees and
staff
and residents, residents. that had COVID. Fortunately, none of them were too bad, other than a coworker of hers husband who's like bad. Like he got it like just before Christmas, and he still can't walk up the stairs, like without having breathing issues. So he's like in and out of like therapies and stuff. But yeah, everyone, like all the geriatric people, like the older people, they survived. Like they're fine.
They bounced back. Yeah. Did that did that person have any prior like medical issues?
I don't know. Like just from the little that I know, because I offered some assistance, like maybe like if you ate a little bit better, if he's a heavy guy, like lose some weight, just give him some basic pointers. So he's not like he's overweight, like not obese, but he's like overweight, and he's not like he's fairly sedentary. So I mean, like that's not a contributing factor. But when it comes to the COVID thing, is like say there's like 1,000 people that that have COVID and they just got the sniffles and they were totally fine. Like for me, because like my job, like there's 10 people that when I tell, like I don't say it to scare anyone. It's just like reality. It's like, there's like about 10 people for every 1,000 that are fucked up so bad from this that like, I don't know how to put it. It's like they're not like what the I don't want to call it conspiracy, but like everyone thinks like, okay, people who get bad COVID have diabetes or they have some metabolic issues. But there's people that like when you see their blood work is like phenomenal. And then they just, I don't know how it works. Like maybe they're too close to people or whatever, but they get hit hard.
Mm.
So, I mean, like it's not the majority are, people with metabolic issues that get hit hard, but there are a few that, that just kind of like weird. Like they must have been in like extremely close proximities or like in very poorly ventilated areas, like with someone for a very long time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I believe in the virus. I just don't necessarily believe in the way that our government at least is going about it.
Mm-hmm. Did your wife get COVID at all from working, long hours and working so much?
I don't know if she got COVID, but she never tested positive. So like, but there's like things that like I would make her do that like she like, I don't know, that can guarantee you won't test positive. But like, even if you have it, so I don't know if she got it, but like, I don't know. My mentor, like who's the doctor at the beginning of this, said to me, like, the only way you're going to really know if someone has COVID is if they do a chest x-ray. And if they're testing 50,000 or 100 or 150,000 people a day, they're not going to give them chest x-rays. Right. So he said at least what he does is people who come into him and say, I tested positive with test up your nose. He just puts them on the chest x-ray. And then, some of them don't have it, so they might have like some viral load in their nose, but didn't make it to the lungs. And those are like majority of the people who just have the sniffles. Like, like people who say like, oh, I'm asymptomatic. It's like, well, for whatever reason, it didn't get into your lungs. And I don't know what's real and what's not real, like in terms of why some people don't have anything and some people have it. So like you could take like certain nasal sprays that like clean virus, like not COVID, but like just like common cold. You could like spray that stuff up your nose and then go take a COVID test. You'll come up negative, even if you have it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because basically what it's doing is it's just taking, it's just getting rid of virus, but it's only getting rid of virus in your nasal cavity, right? So if they're putting a stick up your nose, like, well, your nose is clean, but like doesn't mean that's not in your lungs. And then like a lot of people who get like seriously like ill from COVID are is many weeks after COVID's out of their system. So it's like they're just getting the after effect. Like I have a client who tested positive, and then like 3-4 weeks later, he couldn't even make it to the bathroom from his bed. And then like went to the hospital, and then was on oxygen, and he had to be on oxygen at home. And then like he was on steroids and then blood thinners and the whole like, but it was not weird. It was 3 to 4 weeks post testing positive and having cold symptoms. So he thought he was totally like fine. And then just one morning he just couldn't get up.
Interesting. Holy.
Yeah, it hits everyone differently. Like, yeah, I don't know. My whole mentality on it is like, I believe the virus is real. I don't want to catch it because I don't want to catch a cold because I'm the biggest bitch you'll ever meet. Like when I'm sick, like I hate everyone. So, like I just don't want that. I don't want it. But, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not gonna stop my life. Like I have to keep going. Right. So, yeah. And if you think I'm an asshole and a spreader, go fuck yourself. Yeah, but you'll never find me at a protest, even if you held one for me. So I'm not like into like all that stuff. Like, but yeah, I find that the biggest problem we're facing in society now is it's like people have to pick a side. Like no one's neutral. It's like you can just respect that the virus is there, but you can also not agree with having to be confined to your home. Or like not letting kids go to school, or you can go to Walmart to buy spinach, but you can't buy underwear.
Oh my gosh,
like the stupidity of it, right? So
that pissed me off so bad.
But you save a lot of money because you're not going anywhere, right?
Yeah,
so, that's why I took some trips.
But with that comes like some sort of depression as well, because you're 100%. Not getting out of the house. But So you do lifestyle management and it's all
Yep.
virtual. So anyone who's interested will give your contacts at the end of this podcast
Yep.
or in my show notes as always.
Mhm.
So since you're doing it virtual, you have clients worldwide.
Yes, I do. Mhm.
And since, talking to all your clients, did you get a lot of clients that got COVID? And
Yeah.
in which country were the majority?
Okay. It's just hard to think like the majority is just because like majority of my clients would be Canada one, US two, and then like I have clients in Venezuela, I have clients in Chile, I have clients Panama, like a lot of like Spanish speaking countries is easy for me to translate, and I have a lot of friends in those places. I actually have family in Venezuela. Um, I have I have a ton of family in Italy. Like my dad is the youngest of 14.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
goodness.
and we
Whoa.
only have like one cousin in Canada, so his whole family. He's the only one who's left alive now. So, like all my family is basically in Italy. So, um, like so working with some of them, like on the more fitness side, like the way I work with, like say Josh, then
Mhm.
like they would get me referrals because that's the way my business works, referral system. So, um, I call certain countries like don't give a fuck countries. So, but like I was talking to someone about this yesterday. I was like, like Mexico don't give a fuck. Italy don't give a fuck. Venezuela don't give a fuck. Like they're just going amongst their life with this virus around them. Now, you know, more people than I expected died in Mexico.
Mm.
But then I've also like talked to my friends there and been like, like how's the COVID situation, say in a specific town? Like I talked to one of my friends when I lived in Acapulco, who like from the gym, like he's part owner of the gym there, and we used to hang out quite a bit and work out quite a bit, and just asked him like, has it affected business and he said straight, he goes, people die here every day, but I don't know anyone who has COVID. Now let's go across the country to a client I had in like a little up north, like in Monterey, and he was saying like that people around him were dying left, right, and center, and it was terrifying them because they weren't old, right? Now,
Mm.
this is, mind you, more towards the beginning of COVID, not so much lately.
Mhm.
Um, but people were still working and stuff there. And then, like, even Italy, which is kind of like communist, where it's like, just to give you an example, in Italy, it's like you get this thing on your license plate. So, say, like, I'm in Markham, right?
Yeah.
So, imagine I had on my license plate a sticker that said, I'm from Markham. And then,
Mhm.
like, but I like the grocery store, like in Richmond Hill. So I drive over to Richmond Hill, which is like 2 minutes away. If you get caught there, it's like $1,000 fine. So that's what they're
Oh,
doing in Italy. So um, I got a
interesting.
cousin from like one like kind of village, and then like he's like just fuck all in my village where I live. Like, but I go shopping over there and they would just tag you, right? And then there was other cousins I talked to in other parts of Italy where they're like, well, the mafia basically said they still want their payments every month. So fuck the government. We got to keep working. So like, I call them like, don't give a fuck, countries or cities, like, because they were just going amongst their business. But it was kind of cool, like to me, that like I'm not a huge news watcher, but when we talk to clients, you're hearing a lot of stuff. The perceptions of other countries, and then when you actually talk to people in those countries, it's not the way it is. Like that's what I found
Wow.
interesting. So to say like, I don't know anyone in northern Italy. Like that's more the white collar part. Like none of my family's that. So like we don't really know anyone other than if someone's working there. But I personally don't know. But you heard a lot of people were dying up north. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, but in Venezuela, those sad stories I'd hear, like because like one girl I work with, same kind of style I do with like Josh and other people, and it's like more like cosmetics, like the way they
Mhm.
look.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
she was putting on her Instagram um, like that one of the neighbors needed oxygen or money for oxygen. So if like people can support, because
Mhm.
like no one like there, it's like government is honest. They tell you they don't care about you. They don't lie like ours does, like, so, um, like that's why people, like I say, don't give a fuck countries, because like those people understand that like they have to defend for themselves. So like that was kind of sad to hear. Like, man, you're going on Instagram to see if anyone has extra oxygen tanks, like, or money to try and have a contact, like to get oxygen tanks. So I think it to say one country got hit harder from people I talked to. I think everyone got hit in a way that was not good, whether it be, the town you live in had no cases, but you're still locked down. Like that's not good. Like then you got a lot of suicides and alcoholism and all that stuff. So I think everybody got affected from this virus and the way they handled it. Like I don't think anyone's coming out of this year and changed the same person they were before it started, regardless who you are or how much you fake it. Like everyone's impacted somewhat from it.
Yeah. And you mentioned right before this that you actually went to Mexico and Italy just recently.
Yeah. Yep. I went to watch a soccer game in Italy, Italy against Switzerland. I went to that game. And then I went to Mexico for 4 days just to see some friends.
Wild. Okay. So like, tell me everything from like when you left Canada, right? So like airport stuff, when you left Canada, and then what it was like in Mexico and in Italy, and then what it was like to come back home.
Okay, so when I went to Mexico, I flew to the U.S. So technically,
so you went from Pearson,
I went from Toronto to Houston. Yeah, so I went like from Toronto to Houston, and then from Houston to Acapulco, and then when I came back, I kind of did the same route, like Acapulco to Houston. So I had to at that time when I went, I had to get, which was like I think a week or two, maybe or three after we did the last podcast.
Yeah.
So the rules were a little different. Like I had to get a test coming back home, and then so I did that, and then I don't know. Like it did to me, it was just like the mask thing was weird, but then the kind of the rules are funny because it's like as long as you have like water or coffee, you can just take your mask off. And to be honest, there was very little people on the flight, so no one was kind of causing a scene. Like no one was complaining if someone had the mask off too long. I kind of treat it like the seatbelt rule. When you're on the plane, and it's like buckle your seatbelts for takeoff and for landing. It was kind of like everyone got your masks up, because you're not supposed to have drinks during that time. Airport was dead, to be honest with you. And then like I had to quarantine.
Yeah.
So like when I came home, which is fine. And
did they ticket you?
$3,700.
They did ticket you? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but like everyone was getting it. Like there was a family, or I don't know, a family, like a mom and a dad. I don't know where they were coming from, but it was somewhere in the US. And like I could hear them, like they were at the booth next to me, like talking to immigration. And they were showing like pictures of like their daughters outside, like waiting to pick them up. Yeah. And then they were like fighting, like the guy's like, nope, don't care. And then they were like traumatized that they got a ticket. And I was just like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't know. Like, the way I look at it is just like, okay, like take it to court. It'll be 2028 by the time like it makes it there. And you're probably going to get a letter in the mail saying pay the $200 and we'll forget about all this stuff. So you pay $200 extra. Who cares? Like, I don't know. I just don't feel the need to have extra stress in my life, like for that. And then for Italy, it was cool. The only thing that sucked was I couldn't get a flight like directly to Italy from Toronto. Like I couldn't go direct to Rome, which like it was good and bad. So like the game was in Rome, but I went before. So I went to see like my family. So my family's from Naples. So I flew from Toronto to Munich, and then from Munich, I flew to Naples. So it was kind of like a longer trip than it needed to be. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like I just looked at it as like this last year was like I'm not like some social person, whatever, but like I like going for dinner and I like going to movies. And it's like I haven't really done none of that. And then my wife could see like I'm getting stir crazy, and she's just super busy with work. So when I was talking to like, I have a very good relationship with my family in Italy. I actually have a small percentage of a business there. So, talking to them, they're like, we're going to like, they're going to all the first 3 games. Then I'm like, fuck, like, and they're like, why don't you come? And then I just talked to a friend from here, and I'm like, let's just go. And then we got tickets and we went, and then hung out with family. And yeah, it was an awesome experience. Like, bucket list kind of thing for me too. Like, I've never been to a European Cup. Like, I've seen soccer games before, but I mean, to go to the Euros, like,
wow,
it's a big thing. So,
yeah.
and I'm a soccer fan. So yeah, going down there was cool, and there's no restrictions there. Like, no one gave a shit.
So no masks, no nothing.
Well, like, yeah, you kind of have to like have one, but like, you don't wear it. Like, there was a guy sitting, I don't know, like maybe 2 rows below me and like 3 or 4 seats over that probably smoked 3 packs of cigarettes throughout the game. So like, so, where was his mask? Like, and people are going crazy and like having a good time, and like, I don't know. It's just you feel like COVID's over. Like, so basically, like the route we went, like I stayed in Naples. Like, me and my buddy stayed in Naples with family and stuff, but we drove. It's almost 3-hour drive, like, to get to Rome, watched the game, hung out there a little bit, and then drove back. Like, after, so the game was nighttime. So by the time everything was over, we probably left Rome probably around midnight. And you honestly like forget COVID exists.
Wow, that must be so nice.
Yeah, like it does. It isn't. It isn't, because then it's like you just kind of get that like thing where it's like, yeah, I know I got to take a test to come back here, and it's just like, well, what if that test's
yeah,
like positive, and then but it's Italy, so it's just like you buy a test, like you buy someone else's negative test with your name on it, like, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, but like that's just like that's the only time you think about it in a sense where it's like, you're outside, first of all. Yeah, there's a lot of people, but I mean, I don't know. You just kind of looking around and you're like, oh, like, what's, if you're going to stop living, why did I even come here?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I didn't make out with anyone, like, so I didn't like, didn't get too close to people and stuff like that. Like, but you're close to people regardless, because you're in a stadium with like 25,000 people or 30,000. It wasn't full. I don't know what the limit was there, but I think it fits like maybe 65,000 people. It was probably like, maybe it was 30,000, half, but it was a lot of people. Yeah. And then just being in Rome, I mean, like, it's tourist time. So it's like crazy tourism there, right? So not only for soccer, it's summertime, it's Italy, it's the capital. And then where my family's from is kind of close to like Amalfi Coast. So there's like beach area and all that stuff. So there's tourism kind of everywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
so it was a great experience.
You mentioned you had that long flight, right? From Toronto to...
I went to Munich, and then from Munich, I went to Naples.
Did they force you to wear a mask for that long flight?
Yeah. Well, force, like, yeah, like, so you're supposed to wear a mask, but when you're eating and drinking, you don't have to. So it's more, it's like the seatbelt. Yeah. It's more like, I put it to you like that. Like, no one really like bothered anyone. Like, not that I noticed. Like, I didn't hear any passengers complain, and I didn't really witness any like any stewardess or whatever, like, yelling at anyone to put the mask on. It was just one of those things where it was like, and personally for me, it's just like, I don't want to bother anybody. It's like, they're doing their job. It's not like their rule, right? Yeah. Like, so I don't know. I didn't see the big deal. Like, if I had to just strap that thing on for like 8 or 9 hours straight, like, that would have been tough, because probably she would have like brought on anxiety and jack up your heart rate and stuff like that. But
now, was that flight busy?
I'd say probably about 60% full. Like,
okay. And this was just 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. No, 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Because I remember seeing your post. I was like, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Like, I'm so glad I went. And like, I told you this before. Like, I was planning on doing this. Like, I'm supposed to be in Florida right now, but the hurricane and stuff. I was just like, like I don't want to go down there during a hurricane. So I stayed, but now I'm getting tempted to go to England to watch the final because Italy made the final. So if there's a way I can find tickets, I'm gone.
Good for you. And you have a place in Florida, though.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound too random for anyone listening.
No. Florida for me is like I spend a lot of time there. Like, so yeah, I have a place in Florida. That's my wife and I have debated on whether that would be like a full-time home for us. We're not sure yet. Like, but it's just something that I knew I wanted to have. So yeah, I have a place there. So no, I was only planning on going there like yesterday until Friday, like just 3-4 days, just to check maintenance. Like neighbors and stuff are great, but you never know, right? Like mold and like how hot it is. And then the neighbors are great too, because when they get the hurricane warnings, they put the shutters up for us and stuff. So you just can't depend on people all the time to do something.
Yeah.
So I just figured I'd go down there for a couple of days and that's it. Because now they ease the rules. Like I think there's like, you don't have to quarantine or something on the way back. I don't know for sure, but I heard like that they've eased up on rules.
Is that just like recent, like a day ago? I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not really up on things, but you hear so much. But I know, like talking to my mother, she was saying that if you go away and you come back and you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine at all.
Yes.
Like, so
if you're fully vaccinated,
yeah. So my parents are. I took one shot because I thought, and actually in Munich was the only place I was asked if I was vaccinated. Because when I had to get on the plane from Munich, but I don't know. That's what me and my friend were joking about. We're like, it wasn't like a legal thing where it was like, I think it was just the lady who was nosy.
Yeah.
Like, because we were like, who the fuck was that just asked if we had been vaccinated? Because I was like looking through my phone, because when I got my first one, they sent me an email. So I was looking for the email because I thought like maybe I have to show her. But she just asked me, like, do you have a vaccine? And I said, I have one. And then she's like, which one? And I told her, Pfizer. And then I just instantly went to my phone and was like looking for the email. And then she disappeared. So it's like, and that's when my friend was like laughing, like saying like, maybe she's just nosy because like, I don't know. Like,
did they ask your friend?
No, she just asked me. She was on my side and we were like standing. She was like to my shoulder. And but whatever. I don't know. I just look at it like this, like suffering all these months, like, okay, I got to come home and I got to quarantine for 2 weeks. And it's like, it's summertime, it's home, it's nice outside, lay around, go for a walk outside. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're in a position where you can be home, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not going to drive you nuts, then, doing something like going to watch a soccer game, or like for me at least, or like the finals of a soccer game is insane. Right. So yeah, I'll stand. Cause like I don't work. Like I'm not working right now. Like my gym's closed.
Oh, is it because you came back from Italy? That's why you're closed?
No. So I want to say like, I've pretty much been closed since like the middle of May because I was having a lot of people get COVID.
Oh.
So like people were catching it, and like I had to tell everyone else like, hey, this person caught COVID, so some people were getting freaked out. And then to be honest with you, it was more stress on me than I wanted to have to phone everyone, and then like I have certain people that like have to go into work. Like, so it's like, taking 2 weeks off because they might have something is like not something that they can really do. And then I just explained to everyone, I was honest. I'm like, I've pretty much been open the whole time, like, I just need a break. Like just too much for me to like, I'm sitting at home watching a TV show or a movie and having a good night. And then you get this message like, hey, just tested positive. Sorry. It's like, oh, fuck. Well, sorry for you. But like, I got to now reach out to like 4 or 5 other people, and some of them are sick and immunocompromised, right? So they're a little scared. And like some of them have been vaccinated, so they didn't care. But like, it was just getting too much for me where I thought, you know what, most of my clients are used to me not being around the whole month of May anyways, because I usually go to Florida for the whole month.
Oh, I
So,
see.
so I just explained to them, like, just give me some time to like let everything settle down, and like, if they want to go get vaccinated, they'll go get vaccinated. And then if they don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine. It's just, if they catch COVID, they're the ones who can't come in. You know what I mean? Like, so it's fucked up. Like, it's a fucked up situation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had to close down.
Well, I wouldn't say I had. Well, I wasn't supposed to be open in the first place. But like, like for me, it was just a matter of like weighing out the pros and the cons of everything, right? So it was just like, okay, we went through the whole, terrible parts of COVID. Not one person, had got it. No one they knew had it. Like everyone's been like fine. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like second, third week of May, I'm getting 3 or 4 messages like tested positive, spouse tested positive, neighbor tested positive, and husband was helping the neighbor build a deck in the back. So, the whole family has to go get tested. And it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to do what? Wait around for everyone to get tested? So right. Before I could get angry, I just thought, okay, you know what? Everyone who's been training the first 2 weeks of May is in a bonus situation because I'm usually not here in May. So I'm just going to shut it down. Like, just, like, let's just stay away from each other. And if you caught it, you're not going to catch it again. So that's a great thing, And then some people are vaccinated, but I have to respect the sick people that I train too, because I don't want to put them in any jeopardy. Right. So,
right.
Yeah.
So and then
I was going to open, like I was going to reopen, but then I was like, I wanted to go away. So I wanted to go away and I went away. So like now they got to wait for me, like that's basically what it is.
You're like, can I fit in another trip?
Yeah.
You're going to go to England, remember?
Yeah. I think I've always kind of had this thing where it's like, I've never done like the planned vacation. I can't travel with people. Like I think just the wrestling lifestyle, like just kind of like you just go, yeah, I'm not going to be late for a flight. So if you want to sleep in, go ahead, I'm gone, and it's just kind of like having that mentality. It's like, I don't even like traveling with my wife. Like I never check in a bag, like I remember one time, I think it was like one of the first 2 times we ever traveled together. We were in the airport, like coming back to Toronto, and then I went to the bathroom and I came back and I was like, where's my bag? And she's like, well, the lady came around and she said that you check it in for free. I said, but I don't check in bags, and like it just threw me off. Like I was like, it was a big deal for me. Like, and then because this is the way life goes, this bag that I've been traveling with for like, I don't know, 15 years, which was like in good condition, all of a sudden gets broken because it was checked in.
Oh, no.
Like, so yeah. So I just want to be left alone when I travel. And like I said, I've never really had a planned vacation, like super plan. People plan their trips like a year in advance, like they know the hotel they're staying at and all this stuff. It's like, it's not for me. I just go because I don't know where I want to be in a year.
See, that story hurts my soul because I take care of my shit like so well. And then for someone to mess it up like that. Oh,
yeah. See what I mean? That's why I still blame my wife to this day about it.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's like, remember that Jaguar bag I had? It was so awesome. I'm like, yeah, you checked it in without telling me and you fucked it up. Be proud of yourself. But yeah, I'm just not someone good to travel with and stuff like that. So I like the spontaneity and stuff. And I don't know. I just like, especially the shit we've all been through like the last year and change. Just like, what the fuck's the difference if I take another 2 weeks off work? Like, I mean, like, like no one's going to die. And like your diet's in check. And like, if you've been working with me, like I have clients that I've been training for years and years and years. Like I tell you what to do at home and you do it and you'll be like, worst case, you're maintaining. Like if you come back and see me after 2 months and you're 20 pounds heavier, that means you haven't been listening to anything that I told you to do, but that's on you. You're an adult, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, and everyone understands, like everyone's been super supportive. Like I haven't really had any clients like saying like, "Oh, I'm going to go somewhere else," or like, "I don't want to be there anymore because you're going away." So they think it's cool because I don't tell them, I don't kick them out when they go on vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everyone's been understanding, and I'm thankful for that because I think we'd be in a much better place in society if everyone was kind of like on the neutral same page.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So, for anyone who is actually listening to Rico for the first time, may I invite you to check out episode 8 when Rico first did my podcast. And we talked about pretty much your entire wrestling career from how you started out and how you left the wrestling industry. But little did I know that you had a ton more stories to tell.
Yep.
So I can't wait. I can't wait. But there are 2 things that I was asked to bring up.
Okay.
I spoke to a friend, RJ City.
Okay.
And he said, ask about the time that he ruined your hotel shower when you guys were filming Monster Brawl.
Okay. I think I remember this. Oh, yeah. This fucking idiot. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Anyone like who knows me or knows like when I came back to Ontario, like I think the person I spent the most amount of time with was RJ. Like we didn't live far from each other, so we'd ride together. And I don't know. I think he's like when you look at him, you probably wouldn't think this, but I think like if he had like 20% more athleticism, like he'd be like top guy in like wrestling. Just like he just sucks in athleticism, but like his brain for wrestling is like awesome. Like, yeah, when we were filming Monster Ball, he played a character. No, yeah, because at first I was like, oh, the shower, and then like, oh yeah, fucker. Yeah, so he played 2 characters, but one was like the Wolfman. So like they glued all this hair and weird shit all over him. I don't know what it was. So he's like, I got to drive all the way back, and like it was in like Collingwood, like so that's far. Like to drive back to like the city is like 2.5 hours. And he's like, I got to get this shit off me. He's like, can I use your shower? And he fucked up the whole fucking. He used all my towels and fucking clogged everything with that fake hair.
Oh,
and just destroyed everything.
Oh,
but I have a story about RJ City that, well, I have a lot of stories about RJ, but one that always comes to mind is like, okay, so if you've listened before, you know, like, I lived in Mexico for a lot of years and I wrestled down there. I never drove. So when I moved back here and start driving, it was like, I don't know, imagine not driving for like 7, 8 years of your life, right? So I'm like very cautious driver, like old man, whatever. So I remember one time, like I was with RJ and we went to do this show. I think it was in like Hamilton, and it was like freezing. And then we leave there and there's like a blizzard. And I just remember like being so fucking scared because RJ already sucks at driving. So I was just like totally paranoid in the car. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he was doing, but he went and like was changing the radio station or something. And I guess he had to hit the brakes when he changed the radio station. So all I remember is looking in the rearview mirror and seeing the car behind us doing 360s, like all the way down the highway. No. Yeah, so he totally fucked that person up.
Did you guys stop?
I have a lot of stories. Pardon me?
Did you guys stop?
No. And you can, and if everyone wants to be on the cancer culture bandwagon, ban me because I'm an asshole for not stopping. RJ drove. So you can go get that celebrity. The big celebrity he is now on whatever fucking stupid shows he's in.
What did I just do?
Yeah, you can go blame him. But yeah, there's a lot of things that'll come to me with RJ. But I had a lot of fun with RJ. He frustrated the shit out of me a lot too. But like at the same time too, it's like I had fun with him. I used to get in trouble a lot from guys because I used to put him over all the time. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Oh, I shouldn't be putting this guy over," but whatever. It's fake.
So later on, you'll be the host of the roast of RJ City.
Yeah, I don't
later
know.
On.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. We're obviously older now, so like he's older and like just whatever. Like we got to know each other. So for me, it's like one of those things where it's like I never treated him like a schmuck because a lot of people did. Because they have this like old school wrestling mentality. But there's like legitimately things that I'm not going to lie about. Like the guy sucks at any sport that exists. Like I think we were at a show once and there was a basketball net and we were shooting on the basketball net and just watching this guy shoot on the basketball net just explained everything about his like athleticism. Like just watch the guy try and take a shot in the basketball hoop. So he's lucky he's got the brain for it and kind of happy for him what he's doing now, whatever he's doing. He's just all over the place and he has a big following. So good for him.
Yeah, well, he's hilarious. His comedy thing. He used to do a lot of improvs. Before he got like famous and stuff. But
but before that, even before, like when we were like, because I'm like, I came from like Mexico where it was like there wasn't a lot of this promo stuff and these vignettes and stuff. But like, so I'm behind in that sense. But like, he was doing like when I first met him, he was showing me these videos he was making, but he didn't have the following, so no one saw him. But I actually thought they were great. Like he was doing these poolside vignettes and like some like in his wrestling gear. And like I thought they were great. I think if he put them out now, he'd probably get more attention for them like than he did back then. Because then no one knew who he was.
Look for them.
You should, yeah. Go look for them. Yeah, and actually, when I first opened my gym, I trained him here for like the first year.
Oh,
yeah, that's pretty much the only time you see RJ when he looked good. It's like when he was working out here. Yeah.
Oh man, poor RJ, just getting roasted.
I'm surprised that's the only one that he told you about. Like he said to mention about the shower.
Well, actually, there's one more thing that he asked me to mention.
Oh, okay, sure.
He said, ask about Al Barone.
Al Barone? Okay. You don't, okay. I mentioned Al Barone in the last podcast. So Al Barone came from the same wrestling school I came from. He was years ahead. He wrestled internationally, like all over the world, basically. Japan, Mexico, Puerto Rico. He did. What was WWE's farm system at one point, like FCW or OVW? He was there too.
Probably. Oh, how long ago was this? Probably OVW.
Yeah, the one in Kentucky. Yeah, so not
OVW.
Yeah, so he was there. Huge guy, like 6'3", 350. He like Al Barone was like his like last gimmick, but he wrestled under like different gimmicks. Like I think in Puerto Rico and Japan, he was like Super Viking. He wrestled as Carl LeDuc in Puerto Rico. Like he had a huge program with Invader.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for sure if it was Carl or Paul. Like it was a LeDuc. Like he was like the lumberjack. Like it was like a Canadian family, like those lumberjacks.
Yeah.
So he did that. What did he say? Anything specific, or he just said mention?
No, he just said ask about him.
Yeah.
Gee, RJ could have been more specific.
Yeah, Al Barone's funny guy though, because like he's, I don't know. Now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, this guy was right. Like, kind of like sucks to say it. Like, when it's like someone tells you something, and they're like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're old, and then it's like 5 years later, you're like, oh shit, this guy was right. Like, yeah, like Al Barone would give RJ and I a lot of his wisdoms, and at the time it was a little funny, but then it was like, it's kind of right.
Anything funny that happened between all of you guys?
I don't remember. To be honest, I really don't. I don't think so. You know what I think the funniest thing would be is just like a conversation happening between Al Barone and RJ, because they're just a contrast of like personalities. So it'd be like a really, and RJ's way too respectful to say anything. You know what I mean? Like to argue it. So I don't know. Tell RJ should have been more specific.
I actually just messaged him.
Yeah, he's probably too busy looking in the mirror.
Oh, he's writing right now.
Is he at Baby Gap? Yeah, getting tank tops.
Man, I'm trying to get him to come on my podcast. And with all this shit talking, I don't think he'll come on anymore.
No, he'll come on. Why wouldn't he come on? What's he doing? He loves this. He loves the attention.
He's busy being famous right now. He's typing. Okay. We'll
Oh, you want to know a funny story what happened with RJ?
Yes, I do.
Because he's smarting me up. Like, okay. So, because you mentioned Monster Ball. So we're filming Monster Ball and like, I don't know, they were happy, I guess. And then, so we're sitting with the producers or standing with the producers, like the people who funded the movie. And like, this is RJ's thing. It's not my thing. Like, I don't know. I did the soap opera in Mexico and I did that kind of stuff, but it was like, I had nothing to do with like the politics and the things involved. I just did my job and that was it. And so the guy's sitting there and he's talking about his next movie and how he's going to start casting for it. And he's seen people in Monster Ball that he wanted to cast for this movie. So then I'm like, what's the movie about? So he was telling us there's like something to do with spaceships and all this stuff. Like, and RJ is looking at him like he's into it. And I'm like, I just said, like, I wouldn't want to be on some fucking stupid, shitty Star Trek garbage nerd fucking movie like that. And, like, so RJ was totally embarrassed. And then after he's like, what do you give a shit what the movie's about? You're in a movie about wrestling monsters. Like he's like, just take the money, like just shut up and just get on the movie. And I was just like, yeah, I should have just shut my mouth. I just put my foot in my mouth. And that's why I was saying, like, when Kingdom is one of my favorite people, it's surprising because me and Kingdom pretty much have nothing in common because he's like into all this like stuff that I used to bother him and say this is nerd shit, but yeah, I love Kingdom. I listened to the podcast you had Kingdom. But we had Kingdom. Yeah, anything to do with Kingdom kind of interests me.
Well, that makes one of us.
What's RJ writing?
He just okay. Okay, so I said, what about Al Barone? He laughed. He says, I don't know. He used to be an OVW, trained with Rico and Santino. Just look up his promos and you'll love them, or you'll love him. He also said, well, he wanted to date my mom.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He also said if he was champ, he would go to schools and say, let me talk to the kids and inspire them. And he has in quotation marks. And if they told me no, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So these are RJ and Al Barone conversations where I'm just kind of like zoned out because I have zero interest in what either of them have to say to each other. But yeah, so basically, yeah. So everything RJ says was 100% accurate. And I think it had to do with along the lines of like what's going to happen post wrestling. So it's like you make a name for yourself and then people, want to hear from you. So basically, noble things like going to schools and talking to kids and basically saying like the sacrifices you have to make to reach your goals and all this stuff. And then it was like, I think RJ said something like, yeah, but wrestling has such a bad connection. Like you don't see too many wrestlers that are going to schools to talk to kids. And that's what he said. I would just tell them to go fuck themselves. Yeah. So from being the noble, like good citizen, like to basically telling them to fuck themselves. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. And yeah, he had a thing for RJ's mom. He did. Yep. Mm-hmm. RJ's mom is a great lady.
Do you still talk to RJ?
Yeah, here and there. Like, yeah, that's one thing I have to say is like, if I message him, he answers back, like, and I think because like I met RJ when he first started, and I'm not trying to say like I didn't do anything for him, I didn't whatever, but in a small way, maybe I gave him a little bit of safety net in the sense where it's like, when you're the young guy, because wrestling has this stupid rule thing, is like, everyone treats the young guys like they take advantage of them. Like treats them like idiots.
Yeah.
There was less of that when he was with me. And then I think too, I don't know. Like, okay, I'll give another example. Remember we talked about that tour I did with CWI and there was all the big names on it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was opening every show and I wanted to work with RJ and they wouldn't let me, but I wanted to. So I worked with this guy named Turk. So that tour was such a shit show. Like not in a bad way. Like it was just like, everyone was like having a good time and everything like that. You kind of just want some quiet time. So like this guy Turk, he had brought his girlfriend on the tour and then he had his own car. So I just asked, can I ride with you? So I was riding with him. So when we got to the last or second last night of the tour, he had a bunch of people he knew like in New Brunswick or something coming to watch him wrestle. So I went to the booker and I said, I'm putting him over. Like he's got people here. I don't know anyone here. No one cares about me. Like I'm just going to put him over. So whatever, put him over. To Turk, it was like a big thing where it was like, he was so thankful that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned in wrestling, some people are thankful that you do that, where to me, it was not a big deal. Like maybe I wouldn't have been as nice if someone did that for me because I just don't care if I win or lose. But I think maybe with RJ, he was always the guy jobbing. And then at the beginning, he was always jobbing to me when we worked together. And then I'm just like, yeah, I just not know. Like now it's time for me to job for you. And I don't know. I think he appreciated that because like he was my friend in wrestling, like traveling and stuff. And we talk and like socially, we wouldn't be running in the same circles. But, I met his mom, I met his dad, like good people, his brother. Whatever, like he just became like he's what I would call like a good wrestling friend of mine. So it's like anytime I reach out to him, he doesn't big time me or anything. He's okay, I don't mean like if this comes across as like insulting, it's not, but like I don't get starstruck, like at least by people I've met, like I've yet to meet someone that I've been starstruck with, but like there's times when like he would be wrestling somewhere and you could tell he's probably like a little nervous. I don't mean that like in a bad way. It's just like I'm wrestling this name. I don't know this name, but the way wrestling rumors go, like, oh, I heard he likes to stiff people or he'll like really hurt them, whatever. And like he'd message me and he'd be like, hey, I'm at this show and I'm wrestling this guy, and then I'm like, okay. Tell him I said, what's up? Tell him I said, hi. And make sure he knows that me and you like are friends. Like say friends. Don't just say buddies, say friends. And then they message me after and say, oh, the match was so easy. Like the guy like didn't touch me and he was great. And he actually let me do like these things, like, so I wouldn't say RJ's using me for that. It's not like, I don't want to come across like that, but I would do that for him because I don't know, he's a nice guy and he wants to push forward with this. I don't know now. Like now he doesn't seem to need any help. Like, but he's not really wrestling. He's just being a host or he's on TV or on the internet or whatever he's doing. But yeah, anytime I reach out to him, if I have a question for him or just to see how he's doing, he always answers right away. I never wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's doing really good for himself. He's hilarious. So it's it's working really, really good for him right now.
Yeah, he deserves it. Like, from where he started to now, like, like look at that transition. Like he didn't stop. He kept going, kept pushing. However people want to spin it, politics, whatever it is. Like he entertained people because you don't get to where you are. Like, especially he doesn't have any contacts. He made them all for himself.
Yeah.
Except Pee Wee Herman. He's buddies with Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
Yeah.
which is really weird to me. Anytime he would post it, like he would randomly post it, I would say to myself, nah, I don't know if that's true. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah, no, like, I know it sounds weird because it's like, how would you think some guy from like Ontario is like
It's
buddies
just
with Pee Wee
no,
Herman? But
it's just
yeah,
funny. It's just funny
yeah.
because like I used to love watching Pee Wee Herman, right? When I was little.
Oh, everybody did. Like
So
that was Saturday morning, Pee Wee's
it's
Playhouse.
just
Like yeah,
yeah, it's just wild to me in that sense. Not in the sense of like, oh, how would RJ know him? Not in
yeah.
that sense at all.
But actually, the last time I think recently, or the second last time I reached out to RJ was I saw him put a picture that he was on Family Feud.
Yes.
So I was like, I want to know, like, is it look so easy on TV? Am I wrong? Like when you're watching it, you're like, these people are dumb. Like how do they
Yeah.
not
There's
know
no
these things? But
pressure when you're at home
yeah,
on your
and I
couch.
asked him like, is it that easy? And then he said like, it is and it isn't because it says the questions come at you fast, and then that yeah, I guess there is pressure, right? But like some of those questions are just stupid, like so. Yeah, well, good for him that he's doing these things. Like, I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, because you've known RJ for so long, um, you have mentioned of being part of the Rejects of Ontario group.
Yeah.
Was RJ part of that too? Because you guys knew each
No,
other? No, this was
when I
this
say like
after.
rejects, like yeah, like I meant like before I went to Mexico. Like so when I first started, it was like I mentioned like Nick Nitro gave me opportunity. Like and then there was like Thorn, and then Thorn had a tag partner for a while. I forget his wrestling name. His real name was Jay. It was him, and if I'm forgetting people, I don't mean it in a bad way. It was just a long time ago. But it was mainly like those four guys. Like so, like say we'd go like for me when I did my first wrestling match ever, like my coach closed down the school. Like he didn't want to train anyone after, so I didn't have access to a ring. So it was like Thorne was really nice, and he would let me like go to his house and use the ring. And then sometimes Nick would have the ring set up. So where Franklin was like close to North Bay, so it was like very far. And then where Nick would have the ring set up was on a native reserve out by Brantford. I forget what it was called. Weekend, that's what it was. So he had the ring there. So I'd go like to one of those two places. And I think Frank's partner, Jay, lived like on like the Brantford, like close to Brantford. So you go train with them, and then they'd be like, hey, there's a show in St. Catharines or Niagara Falls. It was like, okay, drive out there, like to go like try and like not get on the show that night, but just let people know that you're there. And at the time you don't really see it, but you figure it out later. It's like you're part of the rejects. Like you look at the shows you're getting booked on, and you're like, you're not with any of the better wrestlers, right? So yeah, like you just kind of got to sit there and just be like, yeah, I guess like in the wrestling clique, like I'm part of the loser group, like there's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. I mean, like I made a career out of it still, like, and then when I came back, I was wrestling with a lot of those guys that were on the, what people might want to classify as better shows. And then Thorne has his own thing going in Niagara Falls. But I think when I was wrestling, when I came back still at the time, he was hosting tours like Northern Ontario and into Manitoba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so there's, I don't know, like a lot of people aren't aware, but like I would never have known this unless I wrestled, which there's like islands like in Northern Ontario that the only way to get there is like to fly in and fly out, or like drive over frozen lakes in the winter. And
oh my gosh.
and they're native Indian like people that live there, and they don't leave that island. Like it's bad. Like I guess if you don't know any different, it's not bad. But when you look at the big picture, it's like, why can't those people be part of our society? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so those shows were always great to do for two reasons. One, it's like they're starved for live entertainment, so they're really into it. And then the second part is like, you're if you're wrestling on that show, you're John Cena, you're their Randy Orton, you're like, because they're not going to see these people live, right?
Right.
So it's a great atmosphere. Like I remember when I was in Manitoba and I would work some of those shows. Like when I went to Winnipeg, they would have some of those shows, and like they would have like $100 bonuses for like star of the night. Like so whoever like got it was, and like $100 like then is like a lot of money, like because you're making $25, so it's 125 is like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of scary driving over those frozen lakes, not gonna lie.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So I think Thorne was doing those type of shows when I came back, but I would run into him here and there. Jay, his old partner, I run into. You know who else was kind of part of the rejects was Outlaw Scott Chase.
Okay. Yep.
You know him? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was on those shows. There was a guy from Buffalo who used to come down quite a bit named Jason Phoenix. He had like a cowboy gimmick. Yeah,
Jay
the
Phoenix?
names are kind of, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I heard
big guy.
Awful. I heard if this was the Jay Phoenix, I heard he wasn't a good person.
I don't know if it's the same guy, like really big guy. Like he's really big.
I don't know. Josh told a story because that was his name. He went under Jay Phoenix, and he was told that he should change his name because someone, yeah, he had a bad rep.
Okay. I don't. That name came to my head, but RJ would know. So where I saw this guy, like he used to come like before, like I went away, like early 2000s. He would come and wrestle like on Nick's shows, like in Brantford area and whatever. And I met him there, like some fair shows as well. And then I didn't see the guy or anything like that. And then I went with RJ and someone else. I forget who, but I went with RJ for sure. I went to watch him work in Buffalo. Like I was done wrestling at the time. Like I just didn't want to wrestle anymore. So I went with him to watch the show, and like Pepper Parks and those people were on it, like the Buffalo crew.
Yeah, yeah.
And this guy, who I'm assuming is Jay Phoenix. So if I'm wrong, I hope someone like lets you know, or even lets me know I'm wrong about the name or I'm right about the name. He was doing like a cowboy gimmick, and he's like a chubbier guy, but big, like 6'2", 6'3". And I saw him there after, maybe like 12 years, 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing a cowboy gimmick, but I don't remember what his name was. And it was like super over. So it might be same guy, might not. I'm not sure. RJ would probably know better. Whenever I get confused on people's names in wrestling, I go to RJ and he knows right away. Like RJ is like, he likes that kind of shit, He generally knows gossip too. I'm just gonna like throw in things to bury RJ throughout this whole podcast today. Like how's that? Yeah, just because I was so nice to him to everywhere else.
Then he'll have to come on and defend himself.
Yeah, I'd actually like love to do one with RJ one time, just to kind of remind me of a lot of the stuff we used to do. Because to be honest with you, like the first thing you said was about when you used my hotel room to shower. At first, I was kind of confused. And then when I thought about it, I was just like laughing. And I think then it's about the Al Barone thing, and then when you got into detail, like I'm containing myself because I just want to keep laughing and going. But yeah, he'll remind me of a lot of stuff. So we had fun. We had fun together.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. There's another RJ story if people want to know. When we did to do with Monster Ball, I wanted to fucking kill him. So I don't know if anyone's watched Monster Ball, but like where I die in the movie is like Kurgan or Robert Maillet, like Frankenstein, steps on my head and like crushes my head. So they obviously had to make like a fake prosthetic head of me. Yeah. So the guys that did the makeup and stuff, and they were awesome. Like the effects, they were nice guys. But they like looked so nervous that day, and they're like, so they're like, you have to make this head. And they kept going on and on to me about like, we have to make this head. And then I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know. I didn't really think of it as a big deal, but they obviously knew that it's something. And I might have given them the impression that I get cranky once in a while because they were trying to put contacts in my eyes. And I just said, fuck this. I'm not wearing any fucking contacts. So I just, no, you're not putting shit in my eye. And then I was filming with Nash one morning and Kevin Nash, and neither of us had slept the night before. So I don't know. We were being kind of shit disturbers next morning. So I don't know if I came across as like a certain way. So they just kept going about, we got to do this prosthetic. I'm like, yeah, whenever, just like, let me know. And they're like, okay. So I go in the room to do this prosthetic and they have straws in their hands. And then I'm like, what are these straws for? And they're like, you're going to put these straws up your nose. I was like, I'm not putting fucking straws up my nose. So they're like, no, trust me. Like, and I'm like, nah, I'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
so
gosh, Rico.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if anyone's done this, but like a deprivation chamber, it's like the closest thing to compare what I went through to a deprivation chamber because you can't see, hear, it's hard to breathe, like you smell, like everything's just completely gone. And I didn't know this. So I'm sitting down in the chair and looking in front of me is RJ. So I'm talking to RJ about whatever. And then they said, okay, we're going to do the back first. So they start pouring the stuff down the back of my head. So I'm like, okay. And then they poured it in front and I freaked out. Like I jumped out of the chair. Like, what the fuck? Like, cause just everything's gone. And
like, they didn't tell you? Did they say, okay?
Yeah. Like they were telling me, but like, I don't know what a deprivation chamber is. Like when they're like, oh, it's like a deprivation chamber. Have you ever been in one? I'm like, no, I was too embarrassed. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Like, so they were just like, their nervousness made sense to me once the shit went over my, everything. But I did have the straws. So like, I obviously could breathe, but like, that was the first time in my life feeling anxiety or panic. And while this is happening, I could hear certain people like chuckling. So I knew it was RJ. So I'm like, when this shit's off me, I'm gonna fucking kill you, you fucking cocksucker. And they're like, please don't talk because it's gonna fuck up the formation. Yeah. So imagine like experiencing your first panic attack, but not knowing what that is. Because that was my first, like, in my life, and knowing like that this prick is like entertaining himself and everyone else in the room at your expense. But I don't want to go through this again, so I don't want to fuck it up and break it. So I have to just sit there and shut my mouth. But yeah, he was because as soon as that shit came off me, he was gone. And I was just like, what the fuck was this prick doing? Right? They were like, he was like pretending to smoke a cigarette and like, like just fucking with me the whole time. But yeah.
How long did it have to sit for?
I don't remember, but it felt like forever. Because like, I just will never forget in my life, just that jumping up, like, just like, oh my God, like I didn't know what I was experiencing. But yeah, they didn't really prepare me for it, but at the same time they did. It was just kind of me just kind of being ignorant and just like, okay, like, let's just get the shit out of the way. Like, who cares? Like, it's not a big deal. But when you combine it with me being a prick over it, like, that's another thing. I'll never wear contacts. Like, I have this thing with like my eyes, like just fingers in my eyes and like around my eyes and all this thing. I don't like it. So yeah, so I was kind of being a prick where they're like, we want you to wear these contacts. And I'm like, well, fuck, I don't care what you want. I'm not wearing them. Like, so I was kind of being a prick because I was sensitive to my eyes. And then I remember like the one night hanging out with Kevin Nash, like we stayed up like all night, and then it was like straight to the set, and then it was just like, oh, let's fuck with these people today, like it was one of those things. Like, so it was kind of like not a great impression I made at the beginning, and then probably telling the producers that I didn't want to be in the shitty nerd movie. It's like a Star Trek ripoff, like so. Then that happening, that humbled me pretty quick though. Like that honestly was like scary, and just fuck that feeling knowing inside you have RJ sitting there. I know he's making fun of me because I hear people chuckling. So I remember I was just saying, don't worry, everyone laughing. You're allowed to laugh. You guys have nothing to worry about. But when I get my fucking hands on RJ,
Until this day, you have no idea.
No, I don't know what he was doing. Who knows what that guy was doing?
See, now we need to find this out. We need to find out now.
Yeah, no, because I asked one of the makeup guys, I'm like, what the fuck was this guy doing? He's like, oh, no, he had like one of the straws and was pretending it was a cigarette. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that. Like something was going on. Yeah, good times with RJ. I hope you get him on the podcast. Like I saw on his Instagram, like he had Nash on his WWE The Bump. That's the show. Yeah. So like he had him his like Nash segment on there. Yeah, and then it was like, like there's a relationship there. It's like, but it was so like, and I thought to myself, like, they can't talk about their relationship on WWE because it didn't come from WWE. You know what I mean? Like, no. So who else gave you some info on me?
No, just him. He mentioned how much he loved your episode.
Oh, he listened to it?
Yeah, he listened to it. And I said, well, good news, because I'm going to have him back in a couple weeks. And he's like, yes, fantastic. Yeah. So
it's hard to tell with that fucker if he's like being sarcastic or not. Like sometimes I'll ask him something. I'm like, trying to be a fucking smartass, like.
Yes. It's the way he talks sometimes.
Yeah, like sometimes it's like even so people who know me from outside wrestling that have like met RJ, like whatever in passing or coming to my place or something. And then like he'll say a comment and then like they'll be like, if I said the same comment to you, you'd probably slap me in the face. And then I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, you don't know this guy. Like he's a fucking idiot. Like he's harmless. Like even when he met my wife, he's like, I like your jawline. And I'm like, what? Like, that's what you say to someone? Like, oh, very nice jawline.
That's your kids, an RJ
hopefully,
thing.
Yeah, hopefully your kids have your jawline, and I'm just like, what the fuck is like, and my wife's like, her first language isn't English. So it's like, I'm like, you understand what this fucking asshole just said? And it's like, yeah, like, it's like my jaw. And then I'm like, yeah, jawline. So it's like, like, what else can you say but thank you? It's like, no, you can say, what the fuck does that mean? Like that's what you can say. So like he is weird like that. Like even when I introduced them to like Al Barone, for instance, and like Santino and George, like I remember the first time I took him to Santino's house. It was when Santino was still in WWE, but he was home and he cooked for us. Like we went to his house after an indie show, and then he had food for us and stuff like that. And RJ was so like, I don't know, like polite and like not himself. And it's just like, just be yourself. Like, don't like wait. You know what I mean? Like, because then when Santino started running Battle Art shows or whatever shows, and they started bringing RJ, like he reached out to me and he was like, wow, like RJ's like charismatic and he's got character. And he's like, and then I'm like, yeah, it's just like, you won't know that. So it's like, let people know who you are from the beginning, because you don't know what that could lead to, especially in our business. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
the hard. See, a lot of people will say like, and even I've said this before, it's like hard to tell when this guy's working or when he's being himself. But it's like when you really know him, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to say this, but then you can ask RJ when he's allowed to go on your podcast. His nickname, Jerry Sag's nickname for RJ was the Night Fairy. Okay.
The Night Fairy.
The Night Fairy. So it was so like innocent how that name happened. But okay, so remember I told you we did that tour like out east, like with CWI. So so basically we went through Newfoundland, and then we got to the last part of Newfoundland, and then we had to take the ferry to Nova Scotia. So what the promoter did was he divided the crew in half. So like half of us went at nighttime, like overnight. So we slept on the ferry, and then the other half went in the afternoon. I guess it's like if one of those things went down or got in an accident, at least he'd have half the crew to do a show. So like if everyone died, yeah. No, I'm joking. I don't know. That's what someone said it was, but who knows the truth. So it just happened to be that like I was on the night one and everyone else was on the day one. Like, or not everyone else, other people were on the day one. So the Nasty Boys and Scott Steiner and X-Pac were on the night one. So we were on the night one. So RJ was talking to someone and they asked like if I was going to room with RJ on the ferry. And then RJ said, no, Rico's on the night ferry or something like the night ferry. And Sags just heard him say, I'm the night ferry. I'm not on the night ferry, something like that. And the whole tour was like calling him the night ferry, like the night ferry. And then they made a gimmick for it. Like he puts on his pantyhose and sneaks into your room in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just funny. But
did he hate it?
No, he doesn't care. He's entertained by that. Like, you know what it is? It's like, if you don't like RJ off the hop, you got to like take time to get him. Cause like, I don't think this is a deserving of heat, but he would get himself heat. Cause you know, when like you go to like a hotel or a restaurant and then you have to sign in, like you make a reservation, he would call himself like Nick Bockwinkel, but like Nick Bockwinkel, I think is one of his favorite wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like legitimately. And people thought that he was insulting these old wrestlers by using their name. But anyone who knows RJ is like I had no clue like anything about what's the guy's name? The famous actor. He died, but they don't know if he died for sure. Jerry Lawler pal drove him and put the thing around his neck like he was on Letterman, and Jerry Lawler stopped him up. Andy Kaufman.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
don't know anything about Andy Kaufman. Like, I honestly don't. And RJ like taught me the whole thing and the Bob Zamunda and like all those things. And I'm thinking like, this guy's like 4 or 5 years younger than me. How's he know about this stuff? I don't even know it. But he's so into like all that, which I think makes him so smart in wrestling. Like even like Roddy Piper was like, I remember when he met Roddy Piper, like he did a movie with him and he was like picking his brain for like the whole time they were like doing the movie together, you know, like, and you saw like, it's just like the more you learn about Roddy Piper, you could see like RJ's like kind of psychology kind of comes from that kind of realm. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But we're not here to put over fucking RJ. Fuck him. You know, like, so that's enough. That's enough about him. That's enough about the night ferry.
The night ferry.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. See, now if he steps back into the ring, he should just do night ferry.
The night ferry. I think so. Be over.
Especially after this.
Yeah. I don't know when I remember like when they like Sags kept going on and on like about RJ like calling him the night ferry. I kind of just. I don't know. I had this like repo man kind of thing in my head. Like I was like kind of a repo man with pantyhose, you know, like instead of on his head, on his legs. Oh, but RJ's a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
And I feel like in a serious way, like talking about wrestling, it's like I don't know. I feel like I somewhat contributed to helping him get over more in a sense, by having no problem putting him over and letting him have like offense on me, which if you look at like me and him, it was like the size thing was like he got to use his psychology on how to get over on me. And then like I just sold for him. So it worked. And he's the one who actually came up with like the match we did for CWI. Like he called the whole thing and like everyone was complimenting like that match. Like people who like I know for a fact don't like me were like, oh, that match was awesome. It's like, it was RJ. I just went through the motions.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, you don't talk all bad things about RJ.
No, like I'm only going to put him over a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'll be honest. Like in Ontario, traveling around with RJ, I had a lot of fun with him. And like, I don't look at him as like a little brother or anything because he's not that much younger than me, but I don't know. I just gave him respect and didn't treat him like a jabroni because I saw people trying to do that. Like, I remember when we did those tours, they gave me my own hotel room. You know, I was like, fuck RJ, instead of you staying with like 3 other guys, just come stay with me. You know, like, letting him use my hotel room like to shower after he was the fucking Wolfman. Like little things like that. It's like, if you don't like, I'm not going to say nobody did that for me. Like, I'm sure people did. Maybe I don't remember and credit them like properly, but like you have to help. Because like at the end of the day, it's like you could have like this great talent that's just like gone because they were, I don't want to say bullied because I can open a whole door, but it's like there's been a lot of people that have been kind of bullied out of the business, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, just try to do my thing. I like the guy. Like he was good. He was good to me.
Yeah. You
And
sound
he's
like
never
Josh
had like
too.
ego or big time. Huh?
You sound like Josh too. Just helping out other talent who wants it,
Yeah, there was like a batch of like guys I liked. It's just I didn't see that often. So I think because RJ like lived close to me, but I remember like Josh, Mike Rollins, uh, like I used to talk to those guys. Like I used to talk to them a lot. Like back then, I think that's what like maintained the relationship. Is like I never treated them like I treated them as my equals. So I didn't really treat them like beneath me or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when they would if they would do extra work for like WWE or whatever, those people I knew there, I would just like, okay, go up to this guy and tell him I said hello. Like that's your open.
Yeah.
Like I don't have pull because I'm not there, but like that's just an opening. So then they'll say, okay, this guy's buddies with Rico. I'm cool with Rico. Like maybe we should take a look at him in the ring. Or if they need one guy to do something on TV that night, it's like maybe they'll choose you because someone will say, hey, this guy's someone I know knows this guy. Like any advantage you can get in the business is helpful. Well, at least it was then. I don't know now, but
I mean, I can't say for like recently because there's a fucking pandemic still going on for some reason.
Yeah, but from the more like, I'm still guilty of like not really watching wrestling, but the more I'm like paying attention to people that are wrestling that I have relationships with, it's like I think it's a lot better now than it was like say between 2007 and 2012. I think was like very hard, like to even like get work.
Yeah,
I think you were lucky if you could get like 8 matches a week, where it seems like kind of post 2012 13, like things just started to happen and open up, and the internet, like people doing these internet pay-per-views and all this stuff, like I think has given more people opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've been lucky across my career because like I've met so many like people, and whether it be in fluky ways, and I think I got lucky.
Just like me, how I feel like about myself.
Yeah.
Places that I've been, I totally got lucky in getting there.
Yeah.
So
the hard thing with wrestling is like if you like try and compliment yourself, like not saying like, hey, I had an awesome match, but like just being like, I don't know, like to me, I just like look like truths. Like I sacrificed basically like personal stuff in my life to go to Mexico and try and wrestle, and I did. And then like I made contacts there, and then little things that happen for a reason. Okay, like I had a WrestleMania experience. So I went to WrestleMania one year, and like Mil Mascaras and like Dos Caras, like Del Rio's father, they were there, and then like Jimmy Hart was there. So it was like what I mean by it was like having these contacts is like cool because like so I'm in the green room like before WrestleMania access before the Hall of Fame, I think it was. So everyone's kind of like, there. And then I see like Mil Mascaras and I see Dos Caras, and I walk up to them and like, and they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And like one of those things. And then I turn around and then Jimmy Hart's standing there. And then I did Monster Ball with Jimmy Hart. So I hung out with him for like a whole day. Like we had breakfast. Well, he doesn't eat, but I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he was watching me. But like, he's there, and then you turn around from talking to him, and then Randy Orton walks in the room and he's like, "Hey, I didn't know you were here." So then, like, it was funny because then there was like certain guys that are like, "Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
Like, why does he know like this guy, this guy, this guy?" And so, like, it sounds like I'm putting myself over. It's just like I'm nobody, but it's just like I just happen to know like the Mexicans because I wrestled there and I wrestled with those men.
Yeah.
I don't know how many thousand times. Like not against them, but on the same shows. And then, and then Jimmy Hart from the movie, and then obviously I know Santino, and then like I met Orton through Santino, and then Nash is there, and he's like, "You're coming out with me tonight," and they're like, "How the fuck's this guy know him?" And just like funny the way it works. And then like, and I like to have a little bit of fun too, like cause heat for myself. Like, I remember Santino's like, I was talking to Santino and Stephanie McMahon walked by and he's like, "I'm gonna introduce you to Stephanie McMahon." I'm like, "Tell her I'm the biggest star in Mexico." And then he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, tell her I'm the biggest fucking star that exists." And she's fucked. She's fucked that she doesn't know who I am, And then like, and he did. And then it was just like funny, but she was like super nice and respectful and she didn't care. She's not there to worry about hiring people, And then like, it's like having fun with it too. Cause like the problem I think the wrestling business is like people have more anxiety about what they perceive is the way you're supposed to act than opposed to acting a certain way.
Yeah.
Like I remember like Cody Rhodes, the first time I met Cody Rhodes, I just said, "I'm the best wrestler you ever see in the flesh." And if that's not asking for heat, I don't know what the fuck is. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those things where it's just like trying to have fun with it. And it's harmless stuff. It's not like I mean it. You know what I mean? Like, I've never put myself over as saying I'm awesome or anything like that. It's just, like I think I've been privileged to meet a lot of these people that are considered stars. And actually, when I say I've never been starstruck, I've only been starstruck by one guy. And it was kind of like cool that like we got along really well. That was Scott Steiner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I got kind of starstruck by him because then you hear a lot of stuff too, like, "Oh, this guy's a prick and he doesn't like anyone and this and that." I'm like, I don't know. And I was like offering me rides, and while everyone else is getting drunk, me and him are looking for food and hanging out and talking about injuries and training, and and then like I ran into him at an airport one time, and like he stopped and he's like, "Hey man, give me your number. I'm seeing you everywhere." And then he came to Toronto for a signing, and Nash was here as well. And then I went to hang out with them, and and I don't know, him is just kind of like I was starstruck with.
Yeah, he probably liked you because you were also jacked.
Maybe. Well, that's what Nash said. And I was like, "Yeah, he just likes you because you're a fucking meathead like him." Like I was just like, okay. But yeah, that's what we talk about, working out and looking for food. And
so how was the vibe of your WrestleMania experience?
So I went to WrestleMania when it was in Toronto, but I mean to actually like be kind of at WrestleMania for the whole like access and the Mania itself and the Raw and the SmackDown after, and then being like at the WrestleMania kind of hotel, like with the staff. Mm-hmm. It was cool. Like you're totally wrestled out by the end of it, but it's cool to even see like all like the old timers like that are there for like Hall of Fame and just like the experience and the WrestleMania party and all that stuff like that. Like I had an interesting run-in with Roddy Piper. Like, so I was, so there was a Gold's Gym not too far. So I was at the Gold's Gym, and Arn Anderson was working out at the same time. And I had met Arn one time before. Like, he actually called me a juiced up Primo Cologne. Like, he's like, "You know who you look like?" I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "You look like Primo Cologne on juice." And then I'm like, "All right." Like, so I was working out. Arn came in, said hi to him. I had a little laugh, and Roddy Piper was there with his son. So I guess Roddy Piper automatically assumed like I work for WWE or something. So I'm working out, and Roddy Piper and his son, like I didn't want to go up to them like, "Hey," because we're working out, but they were nice. Like, they came to me, and then so Roddy's son came, introduced himself, and then Santino was actually telling me like he trained. Before that, he was telling me about Roddy Piper's son, saying he was training like he was going to do MMA or something. Like, this was like years ago. And then, so Roddy Piper comes up to me and he's like, "Great to see you again. love your work, love watching your work. Like, just like, I'm like, I'm happy you like it. It means a lot to me, and I was just like, what a fucking worker. You know what I mean? Like, just what a worker. And I was just like, and I actually was thinking, like, I can't wait to tell RJ this, like how he's just like always working. So yeah, that was a cool experience there at WrestleMania. And then just being around the whole, like, I don't know, like for when you're there that weekend, it something comes over you where you're like, I want to be part of this, because you see how important it is. Like, just seeing all like the people that like go to WrestleMania, like speaking different languages from all over the world and like everything. But it kind of like sucks as a talent, like to work like that whole like access and all these interviews and like stuff. Like, it's like you earn your money. Like, I can only imagine like some of these guys, like after that experience I had, like being there and seeing what everyone's doing, I was like, wow, some of these guys are having 45-minute matches after this. Like, like you got to be alert, and like you're having your match of the year, and everyone obviously like tries to get the body looking the best for WrestleMania. So it's like just a lot of pressure. And I think I never like appreciated that, what all the talent has to go through before that. So it was a really cool experience for me, being there, and it was nice to see everybody and then meet people I never met. Like, I met the Undertaker for the first time. I met CM Punk, which that was like, I was shocked. So I met CM Punk. So I think it was Alberto Del Rio who introduced me to CM Punk. He's like, Punk, this is Rico, whatever. And then, so I was sitting with him, and the Great Khali was sitting on the other side. And CM Punk and I spoke briefly about something. And CM Punk said this to me. And I was so shocked because it came out. He's like, these guys think I'm going to resign, but I'm not resigning unless X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why is he saying this to me? Like, or who's he saying this to that I'm just here? Like, and everything he said happened, because it was not too long after that when that pipe bomb thing happened, like, and then like he walked away and then came back. Like, he, for me, in the minimal like time that I spoke to him, was 100% truthful. Like, I never seen something like that, especially in the wrestling business, because most people, they don't talk. So he must have been extremely frustrated with what was going on in his career at that time, like, to speak that frankly. So yeah, it was nice to meet him. He seemed like a nice guy. Mm-hmm. Definitely honest. And then, just, I don't know, just cool vibe. Like, I suggest anyone, like, if you're in the business or whatever, and if you have an opportunity, someone to kind of be around that, it's super cool. Because you get like kind of like the present stars, the future stars, and then you have like past stars from like so many generations of past.
Yeah. Well, I went as a fan, not like where you got to be buddies with everybody. And it was fun, but it was exhausting for me. So I can't even imagine for, the wrestlers.
Yeah, like, I left that WrestleMania before the main event. I walked out, jumped in a cab, and I just went back to the hotel and ate. I was just like, I'm wrestled out. Like, I didn't go to the Raw, I didn't go to the SmackDown. And then like, there's so many people there. It's like I said, like, there's people I have relationships that were there. So like, one night I went for dinner with Mil Mascaras and Dos Caras and like their families. So one night I went for dinner with them. Then I went for dinner one night with Santino. Then went for dinner one night. Not dinner. We went to Hard Rock Cafe with like Chavo Guerrero. Like, I never met Chavo before. So he was one of the guys that was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, how's he know all the Mexicans? And then, and like, I'm a big fan of Chavo's, like, from his WCW, and he used to ride on that wooden pony thing that he made, like the broomstick. Yes. Like, I just thought, like, because he's an awesome worker, and then it's like, having the balls to do that, like, shows that you have some charisma. So, and he is an awesome worker. I think one of the most underrated. If he's underrated, I just don't hear enough about him. Right? Like, I think we should hear about him more because he's good. Yeah. So it was cool, like, hanging out with him, getting to know him, and it was a good experience for me. But it was exhausting. Like, I didn't want to watch any wrestling at all because even when you go to the Access, there's still wrestling there too.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like, I'm not going to wait in line to take a picture with somebody. So I just watch the wrestling. Or you sit in the back and I don't know. I don't really want to sit in the back. So yeah. So you're wrestled out for sure.
Man, just brought up memories. My very last photo I got at Access was actually with Chris Benoit. You see, I don't know if I could do I don't know if I could do it again. Those lineups were long.
Yeah. You know what though? It's like there's a reason why you waited there. So at that time of your life, there was a reason why you were waiting there. So you're saying you don't know if you could do it again, but maybe you go somewhere and there's a lineup for, I don't know, someone else that you're like, wow, my childhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one thing my father, like my parents never watched me wrestle, but my dad said to me, like, make sure you take pictures with these people. I'm like, I don't want pictures. And he's kind of right. Cause now I'm like, fuck, I kind of like not to have and like put them on fucking social media, but for me, you know, like there's like
memories.
Like I should have taken like especially with like certain guys in Mexico that have passed on now that I regret it. Like, cause you mentioned Chris Benoit. When I was in Mexico and then like I kind of became like a full-time wrestler, it's like a big thing there to get a license. In Ontario, before we used to have a wrestling license, and there was I don't know, I don't remember what it was called. It was like there was a section of like the Ontario government that was like for wrestling. So in Mexico, it's like you have to have a wrestling license, like to be a professional wrestler. So Mexicans have to actually have a shoot fight to get it because they're not taught. Like maybe now it's different, but back then they weren't taught it's a work. They were taught like it's a shoot, and then they tell you it's a work once you get your license. So I had to get my license, and oh man, I forget this guy's name. Josh knows who he is because he told me he had a pretty cool match with Kevin Cross. There was a match a couple months back with Kevin Cross, a main event match where falls count anywhere.
Oh yes.
Do you know his name?
He was
He's a Mexican guy.
Yeah, he was the cruiserweight champ.
Okay, so that guy, his father, is Phantasma in Mexico, and he's the commissioner of like wrestling, which to us we kind of laugh at, or like it's a gimmick here, but like there's like a big deal. So I had to go to like it's an honor, and I'm honored to have this license. I still have it. The day I had to get my license, I didn't have to fight anyone or anything like that. It was just I went to the office, and the office was in like the Olympic Stadium where. Like they built it for the Olympics or the World Cup when it was in Mexico. So I go there, and then like Phantasma was like showing me like this book, and there's posters. So like Andre the Giant wrestled there, Jake the Snake Roberts, like you know, like all these big stars. Like when it was territory days, like they were wrestling there like in the 70s and 80s. So you know, he's showing me this book that my name's going to be in the book. So like I go and I look at like the Canadians, and you see like Chris Benoit, like obviously Vampiro. Oh man, I'm stumped now. Like, but like there was so many like big names. Like then you see like the American side was like Eddie Guerrero, Art Barr, Conan, like just all like these, and just to think like I don't know, like I'm like, man, I'm like, my name's gonna be in the same book as them. Like, obviously, I didn't become like them, but like, it's crazy just to think that, at the time, it wasn't so much of an honor as it is like for me now to reflect. That's why I think like I kind of regret some of the pictures. You know what I mean? Like, so, like I was in Mexico when that Chris Benoit stuff happened, and it was just like, you know, like guys were taken back. More of the fact that he died, not necessarily how it happened, you know? And then, like, I'll give you another example. Like, one guy who gave me a kind of a fake hard time, like, he gave me a hard time, but like for my own good, was Silver King. Like, he also wrestled as Tiger Mask. I know there's been plenty of Tiger Masks, but he was like a Tiger Mask. Silver King, like, if anyone's watching Nacho Libre, he was Ramses in Nacho Libre. And then like his brother's like another star, like Dr. Wagner. So like I remember like he would kind of give me a hard time, but push me in a good way. Like if I wasn't talking, he'd ask me like, "What's your problem? Why don't you talk? You think you're too good?" You know, like he'd fuck with me like that. Or like if I would talk, then he'd be like, "Why are you talking so much? You think you're a fucking star?" You know, like. And then like in the ring, he like pushed me. So he wrestled in WCW, like Japan, obviously, like Mexico, like huge star. And then he passed away just before the pandemic. And I messaged his brother, like Dr. Wagner, just give my condolences and stuff. And I just thought, like, man, I don't have a picture with this guy. You know, like, I don't have, like, because I told my wife, and she's like, "Oh, who's that?" Like, and then she's like pulling out some pictures I do have. And the pictures I do have are all like casual pictures, like none in gear or wrestling. It's like hanging out, you know, like,
yeah.
So I think now is like, so I think I spoke about this earlier on the podcast, like, you know, every 5 years, like your mentality changes. So as much as like you're saying, you know, you wait in line and you don't know if you do that again, you can't say for sure you wouldn't because you don't know yet, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I could. I really don't.
Yeah, well, the patience is thinner, you know, but I mean, like,
yeah, photos mean a lot to me.
I think the only picture I have of me like with a wrestler like that I took was with Missy Hyatt.
Oh, random.
Yeah, totally random because I don't even know. No disrespect, I just don't. I don't know what she does. I was somewhere and I said, "Who is this person taking Polaroids?" And said, "She's a wrestling manager. She managed like Stone Cold, like I guess like she messed." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You want a picture with her?" I'm like, "Sure." So I went. I took a picture with her. It was a Polaroid, and they gave it to me. And then she signed it. And then that was it. Yeah, like, but this is before I even got into wrestling. And I think I asked her, you know anybody? I don't know where it is. Maybe I did. I don't know. But I just asked, like, "Hey, you know anybody who teaches this wrestling stuff?" You know, it's like, "Nah, I'm not from here." You know, like, I don't know. And then like that was it. But yeah. I never went to Access when it was in Toronto, like the WrestleMania when it was here. I never went. I just went to the show.
What? I thought you said you went to Access.
No, not when it was in Toronto. When I
Oh,
went to WrestleMania, like was like my WrestleMania experience was like, yeah, I was at Access. I was there like for like 5, 6 days. Like I was there the whole week pretty much. But when I went as like when WrestleMania came to Toronto,
yeah.
like I just went like to when the NWO thing. Like I was in the business at the time. I think I was actually like right before I went to Mexico. I went as just a spectator.
Oh,
Yeah. So I've been to 2 WrestleManias, but I think the WrestleMania experience is now like, to me, I define it as like the Access, you know, like the week.
yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get to a couple more stories before we end off.
Sure.
Um, being in the business and wrestling in Canada, Puerto Rico, Mexico, did you run into any racism in wrestling or homosexuality in wrestling?
Um, Towards me, like not necessarily like racism, but like I think just because I was like, how can I put it? Like in Mexico is like 90% of the wrestlers are Mexican, 95%. Maybe less now because people travel more. But at the time, so it was like before it was like Vampiro, say whatever he did, he made a reputation for Canadians, good and bad, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know, say Conan made a reputation for Americans, good and bad. So they kind of look at you as like foreigner, 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 but then it's not like I wouldn't classify that as racism. But when I was there, I think I had like I definitely mentioned this on the podcast before. It's like you learn that it's a business. So there's a couple things that I learned down there that were shocking and like interesting and then make sense. So on the racism side, it doesn't make sense. But there were wrestlers. I don't want to say who it is just because he didn't want to say who it was. So I was told a story on a guy who was in WCW who had a huge scar like across his abdomen, and then he would have to wear a singlet to cover the scar. But like his body like looked so good. That's when the conversation was like, "Why are you wearing the singlet? Like your body's so tight." And then he showed me like the scar, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It's like, you get hit by a car or something like that. Looked like a serious like operation. And he says, "No." He says, "When I was in WCW," and he said they were so racist towards the Mexicans. He's like, "This guy did this to me in the ring. I almost died in the hotel." He's like, "Lucky I went to the hospital, but." He's like, I didn't speak any English or nothing like that. So he's like, I got to the hospital and they had to do this emergency surgery for me or I would have died. And he said that it was inflicted to him like in the ring by someone and he wouldn't tell me who it was, which is none of my business. But, like obviously if he would have told people who it was, everyone would know the story, because like that's pretty serious. But he said that the Mexicans in WCW encountered a lot of racism. And then I remember even talking to a guy who was one of my favorite wrestlers in Mexico, Ray Bucanero. And like, he was telling me like, because I asked him like, you ever wrestle in like Canada and the US? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, who you wrestle for? And he's like, oh, WWF. That I was like, you did? And then he's like, yeah. And he's like, they wanted to start a Latino division, like WWF Latino. Mm-hmm. So they would bring like some certain Mexicans and they would bring them. They even did some WrestleMania stuff or not WrestleMania, Royal Rumbles and stuff like that. And then like, so I was like, oh, I didn't know you guys were in like WWF. And then like, he was telling me who else was there. So I would approach them and say, hey, like, Ray told me you guys were in WWF. And then they're like, yeah. And then they were telling me stories on how like not everybody, and it wasn't like debilitating racism, but it definitely was racism. Then they were even saying the way the pay structure was like race-based to some degree, which I kind of heard before because I heard women always used to make less money. Mm-hmm. And I saw that in Mexico as well. Like the women could be like the star of the show and they like make less. But yeah, so I saw that. And then like I heard about that. I didn't see it. I didn't really see any racism because I was always the foreigner, like, so there wasn't much to see, like in terms of racism, but it was shocking to me to learn that. But I believe like the racism in wrestling because as much as I didn't see it, it was like, say you're pushing for someone and you're like, hey, I think you should like book this guy. And it's like, oh, well, like I can't book him because I need to book this guy because I need, whatever. I need a black guy on the show, And then it's like, so this guy's getting booked because he's black or because he's good, And then it's like, oh, we're going to wrestle in this town. I can't book that guy because he's black. I'm like, well, what's the difference? You know what I mean? Like, so I'd hear those things, but I mean, like for myself to say I see it, I haven't really seen it. Just heard the stories and I believe the stories. And it's one of those things where you just kind of know exists. Like, as bad as that sounds, you kind of just do. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So it's funny though. Like, so you yourself didn't come across any racism at all?
I don't think so because, like, for me, like, other than those stories, which, like, I don't know, to me that took me back a lot to actually hear like this guy was getting the shit kicked out of him every time he wrestled a specific guy based on his race. And it's like, there's always two sides to the story, but it's like to hear like then like others that have been there saying, yeah, it was bad, or yeah, like we were getting fucked on pay and like all this stuff. And it's just like, there's way too much evidence pointing to the direction that there is racism. Like I always like tell people, I'm like, a wrestling locker room, you will see every part of culture. Like, you could have a redneck, you could have a guy from the ghetto, you can have, like Latino, you can have Japanese with like European, like all in one locker room. So like everyone has different upbringings and cultural things and stuff like that. So, if you look at the positive of it, it's like you can just sit there and learn so much. Like learn about culture and stuff like that. And I think from like a young age, I've always been fascinated with that. And like, having like family like around the world is like, I kind of had the privilege to travel when I was younger. So it was like always something that fascinated me. So I mean, like, to sit and just listen to people and like just, you know, hear different things. And then from the wrestling itself, it's like, you know, the way people wrestle in Europe is different than the way they wrestle in Japan, definitely to America. The way they wrestle in Mexico is different. Like, so you have a mix of like personalities, and then you also have a mix of like wrestling styles, right? So to sit there and say like, now it's probably different because now with like social media and just like the internet and everything, it's like it should make you smarter. You know what I mean? Like, I have a really hard time believing, not saying it doesn't exist, but it's just hard to believe that like there's actually people out there that are malicious enough to like not like someone for race. Mm-hmm. But 25, 30 years ago, I could see it. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, when I tell like my friends or like people I know, like, they're like, how's a wrestling locker room? And I'm like, it's a fucking zoo. I'm like, it's like, you got different walks of life. And if you're smart enough, like, you could learn them things. And then even talking to like old timers, like even my coach and stuff like that, like they would tell me stories like, because my coach was like a Bulgarian Olympic wrestler. So like he said like language was like very poor for him. So like he just knew how to like wrestle. Like that's all he was good at. So he wasn't good on the mic. And that was in the transitional time of like Hogan with the promos, say your prayers, all that shit, you know, like, so it was like he was kind of useless. So like talent wise, he was fine, but he was no good at like the marketing side of the business. So he would tell me sometimes like they would make him ride with like certain guys, like he would call them rednecks, you know, like these racist fucking rednecks. And he's like, as much as I didn't speak well, I'd understand. So I'd hear them talking and, you know, like, so it was prevalent like then. So like, I don't see why it wouldn't be prevalent in the mid to late 90s either. Right. So, but for myself, I didn't really witness anything like, nah, like, but those stories were just enough to like, I don't know. I don't know how to put the words. Like, I don't want to say like smarten me up or anything like that, but the stories I heard from a lot of these guys in Mexico was like, holy shit, like this stuff was real. Like they didn't tell me who it was, or some people would comment like, yeah, this guy was like this, and this guy used to say this. It's like, okay, that guy's a scumbag, you know, like, but you know, it never happened to me personally, but I don't know, it kind of made me like feel sorry. And I don't want to say like felt sympathetic or like feel sorry for people, but it's like, that's bullshit. It's like this guy had to go through like almost dying just because of where he's from, you know, or like, yeah, like that's just malicious stuff. Like, that's why I say like these days I can't see like people being malicious enough to do that, but maybe I'm just naive. But especially in wrestling, I just can't see it.
So that baffles me because like when you think of lucha libre, it's held up so high, right? With all the history and all that. And then with Rey Mysterio being in WCW, it blows my mind that stuff even happened.
Yeah, but I mean, with Rey Mysterio, it's like he's American first. You know what I mean? Like he was an American who went to Mexico because his family was there and he learned how to wrestle. So I mean, like he was probably smartened up to a lot of those things. Like whereas like the Mexicans never left Mexico in their life. Now they're going to WCW because they're getting X amount of dollars and they want to make a name for themselves bigger than, you know, like what it is. Now you got to remember something. This is the good and the bad about the business. It is a business. So maybe some guy's sitting there going, oh, these fucking Mexicans are coming here and they're taking my job, you know, like, so yeah. Fuck them. And like, I remember my coach teaching me that right at the beginning when I went to wrestling school, like saying like, hey, some guy, you might take his job, or he's scared you're going to take it, he's going to break your leg, you know, like, so there's like those aspects to it too, because if you remember when WCW first brought in like the luchadors, they didn't bring in 2 or 3, they brought in like 30, you know, like, so that could be like house show money out the window for someone else. And if that person is a racist prick, they're just going to blame whoever they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like that's no awful. One went into too much detail, but it was definitely an eye opener for me. Like it kind of like, it hit me a little bit, like to say like, holy shit, like this guy's such a nice guy, you know, like so nice. And like someone did that to him. Like, and then even the way of finding out about it was like, me commenting on how good the guy looks. Why are you covering your body? And then, and then him explaining to me the scar, like, and I was like, wow, like if I never commented to him or asked him, I never would have known that. And like maybe made me a bit more ignorant, where that kind of opened my eyes up to stuff. But for myself, I never had to deal with it. Like, and then when you asked me about the homosexuality, I learned a huge lesson in Mexico about homosexuality. So what I learned there was a guy who, like, I was a fan of, or still am a fan of, and a friend of, and he told me one day he was gay. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, like, I don't care. And then, cause I don't. And then we were in Mexico City, and there was a girl who was like the first girl I met when I arrived in Mexico City, worked for the office, spoke a little bit English. And we ate somewhere, and then I don't know where we were going, but we were walking. So it was me, one guy, and then the guy who told me he's gay, and then there's a girl. So when we walked out of the restaurant and we're on the street, he's holding her hand and like putting his arm around her, like boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, like not just innocent, like, hey, how are you? And, but you know what I mean? Like, it was like, mm-hmm. And I'm like, so I said to him, like, I said, so you like both? And then like, I don't know, I was just like, her. And then he's like, no. And he's like, he goes, I have to make the women think that like I like them. And then I'm like, okay, why? Like, teach me why. And he's like, because he goes, gay people already buy tickets to watch wrestling. Because like, it makes sense. You get athletic guys, like rolling around together, oiled up. I mean, like, I don't know. That's like guys going to watch, like straight guys going to watch girls and do oil wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. It's normal, right? Right. So he's like, gays buy tickets to wrestling. He's like, blue collar people buy tickets to wrestling. And then he was explaining to me, because I kind of knew this but didn't know. Like, so when Vampiro first went to Mexico, he changed the people that would attend shows. Like, he became such a star. Like, before it was all like just blue collar people. Like, like after work, go there, get drunk, smoke cigarettes, throw beer bottles at the wrestling ring. Like, that was what wrestling was. And then he came, and then a lot of the kids started coming, and then a lot of like girls started coming. So like, even to some degree, like Super Porky and like some of like the office people would tell me like, okay, like girls like you, the kids like you, like this is good, like this is why you're getting bookings. So he would tell me, he's like, if they know I'm gay, the girls aren't going to buy tickets to come watch me. And like, he's a good looking guy, like, so he had like a high female fan base. So he's like, I have to keep my sexuality like to myself, because the girls will stop buying my pictures, stop buying my t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like, so it's business. So it's like I didn't take it as a bad thing. Like, oh, like, some people are like, oh, fuck that. Like, you should be proud of who you are. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, when you go in that ring and you're risking breaking your neck every day, if you're doing it for free, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, that's where like pride and ego is the killer. And then it's obviously like none of anyone's business who he wants to fuck anyways. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a guy or a girl. So like, that was like a huge eye opener for me, where it was just like, because sometimes I used to make jokes about me. So tourist area in Mexico City is also the gay area. So like, people would say like, oh, I heard you were eating like over here, Zona Rosa. I'm like, yeah. And then like, I don't know, it's the gay area. Like, I'd see guys holding hands, but whatever. Like, I didn't think it was like where they went. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yeah. And then like, that was it. No one would really like say much to me like about it. And then like, because they'd see me with females too, but like, I didn't know. Like, so it matters in the sense over there, like in a sense of like for business. Like, I'm sure it's not like that anymore. But like at the time, it was like, okay, we need girls to buy these tickets because, Vampiro's not around. So it's like, and like, he had his shine, like he had his time as being a star. So like, it kind of faded away. So it's like, okay, there's no one who's really taking the spot. But this guy who just happens to be gay is like approaching his level of stardom, and, he's a good looking guy and girls like him. So it's about business. So it does make sense in a sense, because I remember Josh said to me like one time, he's like, we're talking about like wrestling is for everybody. And then it's like, it's not. Like, yeah, anyone could get in a ring in front of 25 people and make no money. That's for everyone. But like when it comes to like making money in the business and being a star and everything, it's not for everyone. You have to be well spoken. You have to be marketable. You have to know how to play the game. You got to connect with people. Can't be a prick. You know what I mean? Like, how many people that are miserable fucks can be John Cena? It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you're allowed to have bad days, but I mean, you can't just be like, it's not just for everyone. You know, like if you look like the cashier at Walmart, you know, like no one cares. Like, you're not going to be a star. That's just the way it is. And like, whether it's right, wrong, it's not up to anyone to say it's right and wrong. If you think that, you know, someone who looks like the cashier at Walmart can be the next big star of wrestling, I want you to spend every fucking penny you have on all their merchandise and write letters and say how they should be the star, because it just doesn't really happen, you know? Like, and that's the reality of it. So wrestling is for everyone in the sense of like, who cares about your sexuality? But it's like, so I asked the guy, I said, like, is it ever hard, like for you, like can't be with like dudes because you're scared people are going to see? He's like, yeah, but he's like, that's why I'll walk around with girls too. You know, like, so yeah, his life had to take a little bit of a back step, and he can't announce his sexuality because it's going to affect his business. But guess what? If you're a drug addict, if you're an alcoholic, which there's plenty of in the wrestling business, you can't necessarily walk around doing those things either, right? So everything good and bad is closeted, because, you know, Josh Alexander isn't, you know, marketing himself as the husband and the father that he is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not appealing. You know, like they want to see the machine, the guy in the ring. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. So to me, I kind of learned in a sense, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a work in the sense where it's like, you know, how you portray yourself to people. You know, like I'll give you an example. I like smoking cigarettes once in a while, right? Like, fuck, if they were healthy, I would probably smoke 100 a day. But I like it. So I remember one time someone ratted saying that they saw me smoking a cigarette in a mall. And like, it was a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like, but I'm a nobody. And it was still a big deal because you got to portray this thing. So we're not all perfect, but we have to portray ourselves as perfect. And I'm not saying that the guy being in the closet about him being gay is like means he's not perfect. It just means that business comes first. And I'm sure there's going to be like attitudes on whether they agree or disagree with it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's just what the reality was at that time in the early 2000s when I was there. And he explained to me the situation and why he publicly makes it look like he loves girls, but privately he doesn't, you know? Like, so I'd see that. And then there was they called them exoticos. Like transvestites or whatever, like guys that would dress like girls and like wrestle in the ring. So it was like, that was more like the comedy spots. Some guy, like some of them were like legit. Like that was like the way they dressed even like outside, but some of them just did it as a gimmick. So, but I don't know. No one ever got harassed. Like I never seen any bad stuff happen like to them just because they were transvestites. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But when you get to those like old countries, I'm sure there's old villagers that think that like there's something wrong with it, but nothing that I saw. I just don't. I've yet to grasp people's problem with that stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think that's still going on in Mexico?
The exoticos?
Sorry, no, homosexuality.
Like guys hiding it?
Yeah.
I don't know. The wrestling business, like I talked about earlier, I think like after 2012 to maybe 14 or 15, like somewhere in between there, it kind of made a huge shift. Like, look at all the Mexicans that are like stars in like the US, like not WWE, but like, look at like, you know, that Pentagon, Zero Miedo, whatever he calls himself now. Like, yeah, like look at him. Like, look at all the NXT guys. Like, it's fucked up to think like I don't watch like wrestling really at all. Like, but I've seen highlights of Kevin. I'm like, I know that face. Why do I know that face? You know, and then I'll ask them like, who's this? And then he's like, yeah, this is him. And then I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, okay. I know the face because he never showed his face in Mexico, but I used to ride like buses with this guy. Like these guys were teaching me Spanish back when I first started. And like now they're in WWE, like stars, like on top. And I'm like, it was so hard before. Like it's changed so much that it's actually easy for them. Not easy. Nothing's easy. But I'm saying like for me, it's like I look at the amount of Mexican guys that when I started there, they were starting there too. And like look at what they made. Like oh man, what's his name in WWE? Alamas Andrade. Like he just quit WWE and he went independent. Maybe he's with AEW now. I'm not sure. Charlotte Flair's boyfriend.
Andrade.
Yeah. Like I'm like this fucking guy. I'm like, man, when this guy, like I remember like when I was first starting, this guy was in the back of the bus, like with me, like teaching me, like lying to me, telling me like this word means this, like actually I think I told this story on your podcast once before where I confused years with assholes. Like because like años means years, but then anos means like anus. Yeah. I think like I was like he was there when I asked that question, like how old are you guys? Like and like I'm not saying I never thought these guys were going to be stars or nothing like that, but I just thought there was like no need for them to like leave Mexico to go to the US. Like there's plenty of like opportunity and money there for them. But to see the influx of that, it just, to me at least, it shows that I've been away from the business and it's made like a shift change, like where people are seeking these Mexican guys and bringing them to the US and then reteaching them their style. So, I mean, like, to ask me if I think like what's going on in Mexico now was like the way it was in the early 2000s, like with people kind of hiding stuff. And like, I have no clue because it just seems like the whole business in the world's transition. Like, I mean, pro wrestling's done like everything, like whether it's WWF, WCW, I don't know so much about Mexico or Japan, but like when it comes to storylines and stuff, we've lived through some outrageous shit if you're like a fan, like we had fucking Papa Shango doing a trance on Ultimate Warrior and he threw up yellow stuff, like there was one gimmick where they did like Triple H fucked a dead body. You know what I mean? Like so much like weird shit. Like I wouldn't be surprised if, because they highlight homosexuality much more now. If like they would make a character that was homosexual, like just to draw in the audience, like to get a more mainstream audience or something like that. Like you see it in TV shows, you see it in movies. It was like all that stuff. All like, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen any of that stuff. But yeah, like I've even seen more exoticos like in US and like I don't know so much Canada, but like American wrestling is like you see like transvestites in American wrestling now. It's like that was a Mexican thing for like a long time. So it's like, why now are people picking up on it? Like why? Like Mexico's doing it so long. Like ideas don't just come from the top of your head. You're copying them from somewhere, like, so it's like, why are they picking up on it now? It's like, so that's why I have a hard time seeing people having to be in the closet about their sexuality now. But it wasn't like due to malice because there was a lot of like gay and bisexual wrestlers that I met and that I knew and that I work with that would tell me, and like, it was just, to them, it was like, they didn't have to hide it, but they also didn't have to broadcast it. But there's a difference between being bisexual and being gay. I mean, if you're a man and you want to be with a man, like, when you're bisexual, it means you're just doing both of them, right? So, like, the thing that was kind of like some nights you look and it's like, you see this guy, he got a couple extra beers. Like, maybe this guy is just trying to like, he's upset because he can't go to fucking movies with his boyfriend or something. You know what I mean? Like, kind of feel for the guy, right? So I was like, but it's business. So I guess it's kind of normal. Like, this is, I don't know. I just look at it. It's like everyone's made sacrifices for the business. If his sacrifice was he can't like go out with his boyfriend in public too often because they'll raise questions, that's his sacrifice. For me, and I wasn't a star like him. My sacrifice was, I couldn't be around my friends or family. Like someone else's sacrifice might be broke their leg 15 times, but they're still getting in the ring, Like I got a wrestler client recently. I'm not gonna say who he is because it's none of anyone's business, but this guy like broke his back, never had surgery. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a sacrifice, like everyone sacrifices something in life. So yeah, but malicious wise, I never seen any malice, like any maliciousness towards homosexuals.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, like I didn't at all. But it was also cool for me to learn that, like, that's who my fan base is. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, yeah, like, we have like X amount from whatever analysis they even know. Like, we sell X amount of tickets to homosexuals. Is like, because that's business. Like, there's things that like wrestlers themselves or like fans that they don't think about. But it's like, there's people in the back offices that all they care about is the money. So they want to know where the money's coming in from. So they're marketing to target certain,
Yeah. Yep. It's now more accepting, especially in America. So
I have like my whole thing, just like the way I live my life and stuff is like, I could care less what other people do, like, because it's not affecting me. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't see when people get up in arms for certain things. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But then at the same time, it's like I remember like being in Mexico, it's like the gay guy, I'm not gonna say who he is, when like I walk into the room and like, or like, like see him like at the airport or at the arena or whatever, he would always say to me, like, what's up, faggot? Like, que onda puto? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he always say that to me, right? Yeah. Like, that's the way he talked. Okay. Like, so I'll give you an example. Like, I don't know, maybe people know he's gay now, but it's not my business to say who it is. So say like, I see this guy now, and then like, I walk up to him and I'm like, hey, what's up, puto? Like that. Then it's like, all of a sudden, like, I'm the bad guy because like, you know what I mean? But there's a relationship there. So I like, that's why like the more and more I hear about like this cancel culture shit, I'm like, I don't care who the fuck this offends. Like, if you're like someone who does that, you're ignorant because you're gonna judge or blast people on like one incident in their life, and like you're not like, you know what I mean? Like, someone says something or does something that comes across to an individual as like sexist, racist, whatever. Doesn't mean that's what it is. Like, you got to know the whole story. You know what I mean? And when I see people that I have like these relationships with, and I might say stuff like that, like, I don't give a shit who offends, like, you're not part of my life. Like, so you want to cancel me and whatever. It's like, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because that's just your own problem. That's depression. That's stuff like, there's stuff that like, I have psychotherapists, and psychiatrists, and psychologists that refer clients to me. And like I mentioned on last podcast, like I have a lot of like mental health clients, and like they go over like tutorials about social media, and they're like telling me like, see this person here. I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, this person is classic blah 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 mental illness. And then I'm like, yeah, but he's coming across like he's not. He's got all these followers and he's got like all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but like, look at how he's searching for people to pick on. Like they're following those trends, and it's like, since I've been exposed to that, and then like I'll see stuff like even stuff I see on Instagram, like people I follow, and I'm like people are fucked, but it's not really for me to tell them they're fucked. But it's like, they are. Like, what do you care what other people are doing? Worry about your own circle. Like that's it. Like, because a lot of times it's like no one's perfect in this world. So I'm like, unless someone did something completely malicious and like, murdered a family or like drove someone to suicide by bullying or something like that, like just for someone fucking up once or saying the wrong word once, and like you want to just automatically like out them and stuff, I'm not really down with that. I don't agree with it. And I personally don't give a shit if someone did it to me.
Rico bringing the fire tonight.
Oh, no, it's just like, because you know what it is? Like, you hear more and more about this. And then it's like people I follow and people I like, I see stuff that they're posting. And I'm like, you're a fucking moron. you know, and then I'm like, should I just tell this person that he's a fucking goof for like saying this? No, but then I'm like, like, you know, to me, it's like talking to a wall, you know, like,
yeah.
I kind of
if it
have
was
like,
ever me, then I hope that you would tell me I'm an idiot.
no, because it's also just my opinion that you're an idiot, but I could explain why I think you're an idiot, like what my opinion of it is. But like, yeah, it's too much now. Like, it's like everything's like, yeah, if you haven't figured out that shit's bad and no one cares about you other than your own little circle, like, then you're fucking late to the party. You know, like your life's gonna be shit. Like, understand that, like, you're in control of how shit turns out for you, not someone else. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No.
I know I'm not perfect. You know, like, yeah, I'll make mistakes and whatever.
Nobody's perfect.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. So it's like when everyone jumps on a bandwagon of like, oh, fuck this guy, fuck this person as well, like cancel them. It's like, how about this? How about you fucking cancel all your fucking social media and actually fucking leave your house and make some friends? How's that sound? You know, like, that's my advice for the world. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'll be having like a totally fine day. And then I'm like, let's go fuck around and like see what's going on Instagram and stuff. And it's like, that can depress the shit out of me.
You don't like technology, eh, Rico?
No. Someone said to me, I think it was one of my clients, said, listen, I'm going to watch a soccer game. Like, so like email me like your update, like don't text me because I don't know for sure if the text will come through. And she's like, oh, make sure you take lots of pictures. And I'm like, I'm not bringing my fucking phone. You know, like when I walked in there, I took one picture of the field. And that was it. Like, you know, like, because someone
your only
said
memory.
No, it's not. You want to know why it's on my only memory? So this is the thing. Someone showed me something like, I don't know, years back. I think it was from like Facebook or something, like when it first started. So it was like all these people were like at a concert and they all had their phones out. And then it's like one person like was actually watching the concert and said like, they're living in, that person without their phone is living in the moment. Everyone else isn't even absorbing the moment. You know, like, so I obviously was cheering for Italy, like not that I'm like a diehard or whatever, but I was cheering for Italy and they scored 3 goals. So if I'm sitting there like a fucking dummy with my fucking phone, they're recording fucking everything. I wouldn't even like enjoy the moment and the passion of those goals. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going to watch Josh Russell an Iron Man match. You're going to sit there with your phone out the whole time recording it, or you're going to actually like watch it.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So it's like, I'm not like, the memory is like, hey, took the picture of me being there. I have the ticket. I have my airplane ticket. Like, I have those things. Those could be my memory. But like, if I was to miss the goals because I was looking to post a video on Instagram or something like that, I'd regret even being there.
Yeah, video and photo is completely different. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be videoing.
Yeah, but you follow me on Instagram. You saw my photo of the field, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because like we were kind of lucky and having certain friends, like we got into the stadium like super early, like 3 hours early. So we were like walking around the stadium. There was only like maybe 100 people in there. So we're like, I was like, oh, this is like, because I wasn't sitting where I took the picture from. My seats weren't that good because I was like kind of like midfield, but I was sitting like kind of like on the side, like to the corner of the net. And, like it was like nice experience. Like, hey, I got my one picture, like. And
still the atmosphere.
Like, yeah, it was just like, let me just enjoy everything.
Yeah, I get that. Well, Rico, thank you for coming back and sharing more amazing stories with us. Is there any other stories that are popping up for you?
No, not right now. That's what I was trying to think of. I'm like, now you fucked me up with the RJ stuff because now it's just like all RJ stuff, and I don't want to talk about him like that much. Like I feel like I put him over, I think, in the last podcast, and then I put him over like a little too much here. And then, it just threw me off. Like, he's fucking coming back to ruin my life again. Like trying to come across properly here, but it's just not working out. No, just when it comes to the business, it's just like so much ups and downs. And I just hope that, like, I don't know about your other guests, but like for me, it's like I was embedded in the time I was in the business with more of the business aspect. So a lot of like my stories are like reflective of a business side of things, opposed to like, going out and like partying and stuff with your buddies, because I was alone most of the time. So it sounds depressing, but it wasn't, because I had a great time, and I've made plenty of friends in and out of the business and stuff like that. Yeah, you know what? I guarantee you, like, once we finish this, I'm gonna just have like 100 things pop in my head. But like, that's just the way it is. Like, that's the way it goes, you know. Like, but yeah, like, it's in terms of stories, like
post them on your Instagram.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? Just like, if there's memories that pop up, just post them, because people still want to hear your stories. And
really?
if there's any new followers, you know, they're following you for, like, there's a reason they're following you.
Yeah.
And your stories are good.
You know what it is? I've come across so many people that have become like stars in a sense. Like, you remember, he's still wrestling now, like Hernandez. He was part of like LAX.
Yeah.
Like, there, like, I remember like going to Monterrey, Mexico, and like working with him. And then he's like, "You're in Mexico City?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're fucked up." And then it's like, 7 years later, this guy's like one of the biggest stars in like AAA. You know, like, so like, meeting him was super cool, because he was like a good guy. Mexico's stories aren't that interesting, I don't think, because people, I don't know, like, do they really follow? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, a guy who I learned a ton from was Ricky Banderas. He wrestled as Mil Muertes in not AEW, Lucha Underground.
Okay.
Like, yeah, he was like huge star in like Puerto Rico. Like, we would stay in the same place in Mexico City, and he would, when I moved away from Mexico City, I would stay in a certain place in Mexico City. He'd stay there. But he was working for AAA, so I never worked with him. We would sometimes stay up all night, like, just talking, and I would just absorb and like learn so much from him. Like, I remember like the Headhunters, these like 2 400-pound like twins. Like, I used to wrestle them, and I remember like knowing I was wrestling them, I was kind of nervous, because I heard like stories about them. Like, they used to beat the shit out of everyone they work with. Like, remember Vampiro had the braids?
Yeah.
Like, they would rip his braids out of his head. Yeah, like rip them right out of his head, and like just like beat the shit out of him, whatever. And I was like, "Oh fuck, I gotta work with these fucking guys." And like, I remember him telling me, he's like, "Yeah, don't be nervous." He's like, "Trust me." He's like, "When they give you those splashes, like 450-pound guys jumping off the top rope, giving you a splash, and they can moonsault." Okay. Jesus. So like, he's like, "Trust me, you're not gonna feel a thing. You're not gonna feel a thing." And I remember like, he was right. Like, didn't feel a thing. And they were super helpful to me. Like, I developed kind of a relationship, like, with those guys. Like, still when I talk to them to this day, it's like, Victor, like, call him up. It's like, "What up, bitch?" Like that. Like, that's the way. Like, my wife would hear me like talking to him. She's like, "Who you talking to?" So I'd show her like who it is, and then she's like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "These guys look like nightmares," you know. Like, and that's the way you talk to them. Like, yeah, like they're cool. So yeah, it was like experiences with those guys. Hector Garza, like, he passed away.
Yeah.
You remember him? Like, he was in WCW for a while. He would have been like, I personally believe he would have been the perfect guy for like WWE to bring in as their Latin like heartthrob. Like, and then he got unexpectedly sick and he passed away, and yeah, that affected me in a way, like, because I was a huge fan of his. Then meeting guys like Brian Kendrick, Paul London, it was cool meeting them, because they were in WWE, but like, we had wrestled a lot of the same people, because they were Texas guys, so they would wrestle a lot of the Mexicans. So like, meeting them was cool to talk to. One of my favorite wrestlers that I don't really talk about really, but one of my favorites, I don't know what he does now, but Josh told me that he met up with him in Japan, in California, was Ricky Romero.
Yeah.
Or Rocky Romero. Like, Rocky. He's like one of my favorites. I can never understand why this guy isn't a mainstream name. Like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then another thing that I want to say, before we end this one. Someone who was influential on my career, like in a sense that like pushed me to like go to Mexico, was Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh.
Yeah. So I remember like I had the plan, like I want to go to Mexico, and I was on one of these shows, and then like Hacksaw was like the name on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, okay, like this is gonna be my last kind of like indie show. Not that I was doing many before I leave, but like I was doing it. And then I was talking to Hacksaw, and then I said to him, like, I said, hey, like, I said, what do you think? Like I said, I'm gonna just, I got a one-way ticket. I'm going down to Mexico City, and like I just want to work. And then he's like, well, he's like, you better do it, because if you fucking depending on this shit, you're not gonna go anywhere in this business. Like kind of blatantly just like said, like, this isn't gonna help you wrestling in front of 30 people, And yeah, and then so that was kind of like, I don't want to say influence, but it was a nice send off, like talking to him.
He's such a sweetheart. He always makes time to talk to whoever wants to talk to him.
Another thing too, people got to understand is like, I remember when we were doing those CWI shows, like there's like serious names on there, like talking Steiner, Nash, X-Pac. I think they even did one show with Psycho Sid, and then like, just a bunch of stars on the show. Like everyone's a name, and it's like no one got a pop like Hacksaw.
Yeah.
Like he had
everywhere,
the biggest
anytime.
pop. Yeah, like just was so awesome. Yeah.
He's such a good
guy.
Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoys my show, my stories. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain they will. I want to say the Hector Garza thing, because you were saying how perfect he would have been for WWE, being the heartthrob.
Yeah.
I think it's his nephew. Yeah. So that's basically him, the heartthrob.
Well, that's like, I'm not gonna say emotional, but I mean like, I forget where it was. It was something like I was flipping through TV or looking for highlights or something like that, and then it was like late at night, and then NXT was on, like, and I saw him, and like right away I was just like, oh man, that's like Hector's spot, but like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, wow, because this is his nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like obviously, like the way Paraguayo died was like tragic. Like that was an accident, whatever. But for Hector Garza to get sick, and he was one of the most like welcoming guys, like, and he didn't have to be, because he's a huge star, like. But I remember like seeing him at shows, like things that like affected me, or like the guys that were welcome, like they were actually like happy that you were there, and like even like the original La Parca, like LA Park. Yep. He still wrestles all the time. Like, he's in the States all the time. Like even him, like first time like I saw him in a building, he's like, okay, he's like, you're here. He's like, yeah. He's like, this office and stuff, good to work for. And he's like, when you're in this town, here, take this card, go to these gyms. I have contacts there. They're gonna let you in. They're gonna take care of you. I remember even wrestling somewhere where he owned a bunch of apartments. And he's like, you're going to be hanging out here for a couple of weeks. He's like, don't stay in a hotel. Go take one of the apartments. It's empty. Like stay there. No problem. Like didn't want money, didn't want nothing. So helpful. Had no reason at all to do that for me, Like, and Hector Garza, the same thing. Like I asked him for a favor, and I don't know, like the way wrestling is, like you ask for a favor, everyone tells you they're going to change your life, but no one does shit. Like, and that's just the way it is, and it's a work and whatever. And he actually called, and he came through, like, so it was like, and he didn't have to, but I mean, you don't get anything unless you ask, right? So,
right.
It was just like real honorable guy. So it was just sad, because I think like he was just under 40 when he passed, or 40, but it was like the shape he was in, and like health, like physical health wise, you wouldn't have known anything was wrong with him. Like he still had another good, like solid 5 years, of like making an impact. So, I guess it's good to see his nephew doing that, but I don't really know his nephew, but it's just funny for me to see like all these guys I knew that were like young guys, and that were like opening match guys, like on like house shows, like in WWE or AEW. I haven't really watched. I should watch more wrestling. That's what I'm gonna try and do.
Get back into it. Yeah. Get back into it, and then we'll talk again and see if you're,
you know what I think's good for me is like I can watch it and not judge it. Like I think when you're in the business, it's hard because you're watching, and then there's like always that little bit of spite in you where it's like, oh, I should take his spot, or like, oh, I would do this, like that's the best. Like there's guys I remember sitting at these indie shows in front of 20 people or watching matches, and these guys haven't fucking done anything, and they're sitting there judging everyone on the show, and it's like, I hope I never sound like this, like
yeah.
It's like I think I can actually sit there and just like enjoy as a fan.
You should get back into it.
We'll see. Right now, I'm watching soccer. Right now, okay. Soccer's my thing, and then we'll see what happens when soccer's over. We'll see what's next. Maybe I'll watch some wrestling.
You watch your soccer. You go to England, and then come back, and then watch wrestling.
So tell me quickly, where can we watch like Impact? So if I want to watch Josh, where do I watch Impact?
Yes. In Canada, you can watch on the Fight Network if you have it. If not, you can stream for free on Twitch, on their Twitch channel. So twitch.tv/Impact Wrestling. Every Thursday, they do like a pre-show thing they call Before the Impact. That starts at 7, and then the main show is at 8 o'clock. And yeah, that's every Thursdays. And if you don't catch it then, I think they do a replay Fridays at 6 p.m.
Okay. And then obviously WWE is on Sportsnet in Canada, and then AEW is on TSN, I believe.
I think so.
There's just so much wrestling on again. Like it's a great time to be a fan.
Yeah. So and a good reason for you to start watching again. See what you like.
I'm gonna try next week.
Next week.
I'll put wrestling on. Well, yes. Well, soccer's over Sunday. It's like both Copa America and the Euros. They're both finished on Sunday, so I got time. And then the one thing I guarantee I will never watch is RJ's fucking shitty show. Whatever show he does, I will not watch RJ's show. I have zero interest. I try and skip through whenever I'm on Instagram all the stories. There's nothing interesting on there. Just save yourself the time. Do the unfollow RJ City, okay? Follow me instead, and I'll tell you anything you want to know about him.
There you go.
Yeah.
Rico, thanks again. Tell us about your lifestyle management and where they can contact you.
All right. Basically, what I do now more than ever is just helping people with sustainable kind of approach to like getting to your goals. So I basically provide like the meal plan with majority of the foods you like. And then I add in some of my own. And then I'll do like a workout and a cardio regimen for you. Nothing hardcore, everything sustainable. So my whole approach is like, if I'm asking you to do this now, you can do it in 5 years. Like I wouldn't ask you to like, go nuts now. And it's something that's going to like impede your life and make you just want to quit later. So basically where you could reach me at is mjdlifestylemanagement@gmail.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram. I believe it's Rico Montana 1. And
let me cut you off there at Rico Montana _1.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Because we had you had to look up your handle at the last episode.
And I just had to look up my email. So like that's why I couldn't do both at the same time. It's Rico Montana _1 Instagram. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and reach out to me. And I have a huge apology. Like someone, I don't want to say who it is because it's none of anyone's business who reaches out to me. But someone reached out to me like 3 weeks ago, and I just noticed their email in a spam folder. So I actually contacted Josh and said, please, like, let this person know I just found it in the spam and I'm not being a dick. Like. Yeah, that's the only kind of thing I care about is I don't want to come across as big time where it's like, I have no time for you. Like anyone who reaches out to me, I get back to you right away. Like that's something that I prioritize. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did it get figured out?
Yeah. Yeah, I just texted them and I was like, hey, this person like told me that you gave them the contact and like fuck was in my spam. And the only reason I even knew a spam folder existed was because someone said they sent me money and I was like, I didn't get it. So they said, check your spam. I didn't even know what spam was.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I
check
hope
that
we
thing
learned
often.
today. Yeah. Yeah. So I check daily. So if you're interested, I know times are tough. And I told Josh because he's helped me like, with the promoting basically that I work with him and people have reached out. For anyone that comes from you or comes from Josh, I give him a special rate.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'll take care of them. Yeah.
There you go,
And
guys.
if you come
mention
from RJ,
me. Don't mention
yeah.
Josh. Mention me,
Yeah.
so I look better.
Yeah. And if you come from RJ, you charge double. Yeah. No, but yeah, I appreciate everyone that gets sent to me from you and from Josh and from everyone else. And I understand everyone's going through a hard time. So I just take that all into consideration and just, if we're going to get out of this stuff, we got to get out of it healthy. So, once things finally do get back to normal, you just, you're already in a good spot. You're not waiting to get into a good spot.
Yeah. Rico, you're so good. Such a good guy.
Thanks.
Well, that does it for this week. Until then, see you next Tuesday.